So were all the Jon Snow loyalists conveniently inside during the mutiny? Not to mention, a howling of a wolf was enough to bring them outside to investigate, yet a torch-lit stabbing ceremony consisting of a couple dozen people didn't so much as stir them.
Thorn did this.
No
I saw him in the flames, fighting at Winterfell.
I mean, this isn't exactly the first time your fire visions have been proven faulty.
You all know why you're here. Jon Snow is dead.
Who killed him?
I did.
Well, if everyone knows why they're here, why must you re-inform them? Also, what was everyone arguing about if the fact that Jon Snow was killed by Thorn and the other senior officers is new information to them?
Jon Snow was going to destroy the Night's Watch. He let the wildlings through our gates, as no Lord Commander has ever done before.
What do you mean he was going to destroy the Watch? If letting the wildlings pass the wall was the thing that would seal the Watcher's fate, then it would have made far more sense to kill Jon and or assume command of the Watch before the wildlings were past the wall. Killing Jon when you did accomplishes nothing against the perceived threat of the wildlings. In fact, it would, and now has, antagonized the wildlings. The killing was clearly done in spite of what Jon had done, not because it was in the best interest of the Night's Watch.
Who is going to help us?
You're not the only ones who owe your lives to Jon Snow.
Bolt the door. Don't let anyone in. I'll be back as soon as I can.
Maybe you should have double-checked that you were on the same page. You know, just in case Ed started running off after someone completely different. Also, how is Ed meant to escape Castle Black? Even if there aren't people directly watching the door, they'll still have men watching the walls, the gate, and the stables he'll likely have to nab a horse from.
What could I do to her that those hounds couldn't?
Quite a lot, I'd imagine. Especially when you consider that you later describe them as loyal beasts who would never hurt their owner.
Pain will be paid for 1,000 times over.
Well, it's not like she exactly suffered. She landed head first and was killed, or at least knocked out instantly. 1,000 times 0 is still 0.
Do you think that burning wagons in the night and mowing down tired, outnumbered Baratheons is the same as facing a prepared and provisioned Lannister army?
Sure it is. Anything is possible with 20 good men.
Without Sansa, you won't be able to produce an heir. And without an heir? Well...
Of course he could produce an heir. He'd just have to remarry. In fact, why was it so important to remarry Sansa in the first place? Why not just kill her, like you were doing with the rest of the Starks? Locking her down in wedlock is all good and all, until she escapes and starts rallying the North against you, which is exactly what she's about to do. Just so you know, these guys have been running for over a day now, and that's at the very least. You see, they escaped in daylight. Then the scene after, where Meryn Trant and later Jon Snow died and then brought in, happened at night. And then the earlier scenes with Thorn and Ed were during the day again. They've been running for over 24 hours, in the snow, with no food, water, or warmth. In clothes not designed in any way for prolonged time in the cold, all while being chased by hounds.
It's too cold, I can't. I won't make it, I'll die.
I've seen what his hounds do to a person. This way is better.
That river went from cold water rapids to still as glass within 10 seconds. Physics. Welp, they should be dead within a few minutes.
I'll know them away.
As if that would ever work. Ramsay almost certainly cares more about recapturing Sansa than he does recapturing Theon, so he would have given something of Sansa's to the hounds to pick up on her scent specifically. Shouldn't these guys be freezing their balls off from having to wade through that freezing cold river as well?
Bloody woman.
If you're close enough to the person charging at you on horseback in full armor with their sword raised in a striking position to discern their gender, then you should also be close enough to see that there is a person charging at you on horseback in full armor with their sword raised in a striking position, and you should instinctively duck or prepare to parry the strike. Also, for those just tuning in, each episode that features Podrick will earn the series 10 extra sins, that being, until his secrets are revealed. Okay children, let's count how many Bolton boys died here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But wait, there were 6 before. That means one of them either disappeared into thin air, or is on his way back to Winterfell to inform Ramsay of mission failure, and reinforcements will be arriving shortly. Better keep moving. As soon as the guys stop holding the hounds and start fighting Brienne and Podrick, wouldn't the hounds immediately maul Sansa to death?
Your Grace, I'm sorry to disturb you. A ship from Dawn has sailed into the harbour.
You'd think Jaime and or Trystane would have ordered the ship to dock at the nearest port, perhaps to sound the ship for any possible perpetrators, source the relevant stuff to prepare Myrcella's body so it doesn't decay too much on the several week-long sail from Dawn to King's Landing, and perhaps also to send ravens to inform the appropriate people as to what's happened, to avoid the thing that is about to happen.
Do you remember the first time you saw a dead body?
Mother.
All I could think about when she died was what would happen to her now. Every day, every night. What does Mama look like now? As she started to bloat. As her skin turned black. And her lips peeled back from her teeth.
I know Tywin wasn't exactly the nicest father, but I sort of doubt that he would allow his children to watch their mother's body decay, or give a vivid description of said decay.
You told me yourself when Father died. You said we had to stay together. You said people would try to tear us apart, take what's ours. That was a prophecy too. I didn't listen to you and everything you said came true.
How is that a prophecy? That's just Jaime using his common sense. Tywin was a very rich man and had been the head of House Lannister for a very long time. And when a rich man dies, people typically scramble for his wealth.
They scream in agony, and their shame is so great they do not feel the flames.
They scream in agony, but don't feel the flames. Considering that we were forced to suffer through the lousy excuse that was the Dawn subplot last season, I feel compelled to add 10 sins due to its continuation into this season. If you have any objections to this, please contact me at screwthedawnsubplot@gmail.com. Seriously? A big beefy guy wearing full battle dress is killed instantly by a dagger in the back, even though we've seen several instances of the same or similar injuries, and the person can still fight on?
When was the last time you left this palace? You don't know your own people. They're disgust for you.
Okay, there's some serious mental gymnastics going on here. You're telling me that the Dornish people were horrified by the deaths of Elia and Oberyn? Fair enough. They must really respect House Martell then. So what do they do about it? They butcher another 2 members of House Martell. I think this logic warrants the addition of another 10 sins. If you have any objections to this, please contact me at screwthedawnsubplot@gmail.com.
I told you I'm not hungry.
We're not here to feed you.
We're here to explain how we managed to make it onto this ship even though everyone would have been on extremely high alert following the death of Princess Myrcella. Discount Pinocchio.
I used to steal from people like you when I was a boy.
It's a good thing you're not a boy anymore. Because you have no cock.
What does that even mean? Other than a not-so-subtle way of reminding the audience that Varys is indeed a eunuch.
Our queen is not as popular in Meereen as she used to be.
The Sons of the Harpy?
Very possibly. Daenerys Targaryen took away the most valuable property. Told them human beings weren't even property to begin with.
Wait, did Tyrion just imply that the Masters were behind the Sons of the Harpy? Information which will not be found out for another couple of episodes?
She won't be sailing to Westeros anytime soon.
Quickly! Don't let the 20 good men escape again!
Don't know anything else that can melt a ram's horn.
We're on the right path then.
Really? Jorah and Daario are deep into the Dothraki Sea at this point. What are the odds that they ended up wandering in the exact right direction to track Drogon's meals? Hey Jorah, why do you keep randomly stopping to pull back your sleeve? What's so interesting about the back of your arm? Where are all these slaves before? You know, when they were charging through the hills at speeds that no human on legs could hope to keep up with? Why do they seem so shocked that the random woman they found in the Dothraki Sea speaks Dothraki?
أنا Daenerys Javasco. Heala Targaryen. Atak mahakison mayo savirsak. Khalisi mireni. Khalisi mandatli man roinari mataki. Khalisi maravoshi. Javorshi vea varak.
I just realised something regarding the titles of the King or Queen of Westeros. They only say that they are the King, Queen of the Andals, the First Men, and the Royner, aka the Dornish. And they usually don't even mention the Royner. What about the Ironborn? What about the Northmen? No wonder they're constantly declaring their independence. So, from what I'm gathering, after the Faceless Men blinded Arya, they stripped her naked, gave her a rag to wear instead, and left her on the streets to beg. But they also had the courtesy to row her back over to the main city of Brava so she could beg more effectively.
I can't see.
Well, that's your problem, not mine.
I wouldn't mind this subplot and its painfully slow pace so much if it actually served to make the Faceless Men mysterious, like how they did with Jaqen's character in Season 2. But no, this agent of the Faceless Men is literally just fighting Arya in the street, as if they were just common thugs. This subplot has not only completely butchered Jaqen's character, but ruined the entire mystique of the Faceless Men.
See you tomorrow.
Wow, I'm glad we spent so much time on that pointless scene. Oh shit, it's Bobby B, back from the dead. He's pretty depressed, you see. He lost his hammer to the boar, and the wine is of pretty poor quality up at the wall.
They want to come in. They're gonna come in.
I didn't realise that Captain Obvious was a member of the Night's Watch.
You haven't seen her do what I've seen her do.
Produce a vagina monster after gestating it for several months, only for it to kill a single person before vanishing into thin air. I can't undress unless I'm watching myself undress in a mirror. Narcissistic much? Oh, good lord. Also, I just looked it up on the wiki, and the Red Woman is supposedly over 400 years old. So if the magic that is keeping her young is no longer doing so, shouldn't she pretty much just keel over and die of old age as soon as the magic was gone? So what have they been eating for the past year or so? Cooked Jojen? Freshly exploded by magic flaming ball?
Give him another go, Ned.
That's my father. And my Uncle Benjamin.
Keep your shield up, or I'll ring your head like a bell.
But he had his shield up, didn't he? Also, I haven't once seen someone in this show engage in a fight with sword and shield. Shouldn't you be teaching them how to parry with swords?
Lyanna!
My Aunt Lyanna. I've seen her statue in the crypt. My father never talked about her.
Thanks, narrator. Bran.
What'd you get out of here? We're sparring.
Who are you going to spar with when Ned goes off to the Eyrie?
I don't know. What about the Master at Arms who is standing 3 feet away from you?
I saw that Hodor wasn't always Hodor.
Hodor.
His real name is Willis, and he could talk and fight.
Fight?
The Three-Eyed Raven says there's a war coming.
And we're going to fight it in there.
Wasn't it your f***ing idea to come all the way up here to do exactly that?
Brandon Stark needs you.
For what? I sit in there and I watch him have his visions and nothing ever happens.
He isn't going to stay here forever. And out there, he needs you.
I'm sure if I looked up Bran Mira fanfiction, that would be the opening quote for every single one. How do they have Jon's sword? He certainly didn't carry it outside with him when he was stabbed. Okay, you're telling me that Alistair Thorne, a man who killed his Lord Commander to protect the Night's Watch from the wildlings, in the dead of night, neglected to have any guards watching the wall for a wildling attack. That guy should have gone for the head.
Throw them into the cells where they belong.
Ed expects the wildlings to know where the Castle Black cells are for some reason. Also, how do they know exactly who stabbed Jon Snow and therefore who to throw into the cells?
I mean, she's used to her brother, and from what I hear, Jaime Lannister's half an inch shy of an inch. She sees it, and I swear to the gods, she licks her lips.
Discount every f***ing twat you meet in the schoolyard. Shouldn't the mountain be, I don't know, guarding Cersei, instead of stalking around random courtyards in the depths of the King's Landing sprawl? I think this qualifies as a fetish.
The king is supposed to be the protector of the realm. If I can't even protect my own wife or my own mother, what good am I?
To be fair, your mother told you that if you marched on the Sept, the Sparrows would kill Marjorie and Cersei after she too was imprisoned. I guess if you followed her words, you were protecting them in the best way you could.
Every one of us is poor and powerless. And yet together, we can overthrow an empire.
Why hasn't that happened before then? Oh yeah, because said empire usually possesses a far better trained and well-equipped army to counter such revolts. Also, you do have some power, namely those big pointy sticks in your hands, provided by the good loving grace of Cersei f***ing Lannister.
I should have executed all of them. I should have pulled down the sept onto the High Sparrow's head before I let them do that to you. As you would have, for me.
Would she though? I thought Cersei feared that if they marched on the sept, then the Sparrows would hold their valuable prisoners at knife point. Whether or not they actually would is another question.
You raised me to be strong.
Nah, I'm pretty sure she raised Joffrey to be strong. She would have raised you to marry some highborn lady later in life to grow House Baratheon's influence or something.
Help me.
Okay. First step, become a soulless narcissist who cares about nothing but his immediate family and will do anything to improve the stance of yourself and your family, even if it comes at the cost of lives of others or the stability of the crown, its backers, and possibly the entire realm as a whole. What do you say?
So, the fleet, it's been burned.
We are searching for the men who burned the ships, but nobody saw anything.
Yep, definitely the work of 20 good men.
Astapor and Yunkai have stopped asking us for aid.
Perhaps they can tell us the secret.
The Masters have retaken both cities. Outside of Meereen, the whole of Slavers Bay has returned to the slavers.
How is this new information? If I recall correctly, Jorah told Daenerys the exact same thing all the way back in Season 4.
From Yunkai. Without the Unsullied to enforce your rule, the wise masters have retaken control of the city. They've re-enslaved the freedmen who stayed behind and sworn to take revenge against you. And in Astapor, the council you installed to rule over the city has been overthrown by a butcher named Cleon, who's declared himself his imperial majesty.
How do you know this?
That's what I do. I drink, and I know things.
I'm pretty sure 90% of the most quotable lines in this show came from Tyrion. Gotta love this guy.
Dragons are intelligent. More intelligent than men, according to some maesters.
That's why they tried to kill their mother last season. More intelligent than humans, my ass. They're happy when they're well fed and free to fly, and they're cranky when they're not. Do you think that maybe the dragons are also upset because they're living in constant pitch blackness? 1.5 minutes of approaching dragons in the darkness. For like the third time in this show. Unless those collars are made out of some kind of magic metal that grows in size over time, then someone has been regularly going in there and replacing the collars with larger ones as Rhaegal and Viserion grew from the size they were in Season 4 to the size they are now.
Next time I have an idea like that, punch me in the face.
But they're still in captivity, aren't they?
What's your name?
No one.
I don't believe that.
I don't get it. Is this meant to secretly be a part of Arya's training? Or is this just the waif, who is supposed to be a faceless man who has no emotion, bullying Arya because she enjoys it? I can't wait till we see the Faceless Men teleportation lesson.
We came upon the bodies on our way here.
6 men. Your best hunters.
They obviously had help.
Why not just send more? Good hunting dogs can pick up scent trails which are several days old.
Jon Snow's a bastard, not a Stark.
So was I, Father.
Your hold on the North will never be secure as long as a Stark can walk through that door.
Yes, this was established literally years ago. Or have you guys just completely forgotten that you sent your Master-at-Arms to join the Watch for the sole purpose of assassinating Jon and finding out the location of Bran and Rickon?
Castle Black isn't defended on the southern side. And the few men left are barely men at all. Farm boys and thieves. With a small force, we could storm the castle, kill Jon Snow...
Murder the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch? You'd unite every house in the north against us.
To be fair, if the Northmen are truly honourable, they would see Jon as a member of the Watch, and therefore, under normal circumstances, ineligible to rally behind and inherit the lordship of House Stark due to the vows he swore. Also, he is literally Lord Commander, so clearly he takes his role in the Watch very seriously. Also, if you really are desperate to depose of Jon Snow, then why not just send another assassin guy to kill him? Why do you need to send an army?
We don't need every house in the north. The Umbers, the Manderlys, and the Karstarks command more soldiers than all the other houses combined.
The Manderlys? Why would they support House Bolton? Wasn't their heir to House Manderley killed during the Red Wedding, of which the Boltons were the primary instigators of?
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme. Every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one. Hopefully it'll work.
Ramsay, where is your father?
I know she's probably not the brightest spark, but Jesus Christ, how does she not know what's about to happen?
I saw her with a man. I don't think he hurt her. She didn't want to leave him, he didn't want to leave her.
You're making that relationship out to sound like something that it wasn't. Well, at least I hope it wasn't. Also, you know exactly who that man was. Why are you not bothering to tell her? Holy shit, is Theon secretly a Slav?
We shouldn't be lighting fires. It's not safe. He won't stop hunting us.
He's right. You should be moving as quickly as possible, as well as wading through every other stream for good measure.
May I take one of the horses?
Where will you go?
Home.
Well, it's several hundred miles to the west coast of Westeros from here, where you'll most likely need to hunt for food and build or find your own shelters, all in Siberian conditions. Also, assuming that you make it there, you need to find someone who will actually believe who you say you are and give you a lift to the Iron Islands.
But we'll never hold lands and castles against mainland armies.
Not if our captains defy my orders, abandon their posts and sacrifice our men on foolish missions.
I won't apologize for trying to rescue Theon.
To be fair, yeah. Yara's post appeared to be somewhere on the Iron Islands anyway, and it doesn't seem like anywhere on the Iron Islands has come under attack, let alone fallen to a mainland army. And she lost, what, 10 men at most?
We took those castles because the Northerners marched off to war. That war is over. The last time we provoked them too far, I watched from that window as they breached our walls and knocked down our towers.
So what? You thought they would be at war forever? What did you think would happen when the Northerners were done with their war? They would happily accept the Ironborn, holding all their coastal castles and keeps?
Shut your mouth on a bay, or I will make another heir who will.
Heir? I thought the kings were voted in with kingsmoots in the Iron Islands.
Ocean man, take me by the hand, lead me to the land.
I am the storm, brother. The first storm and the last. And you're in my way.
I feel like it would be appropriate for Euron to start rapping at this point.
Perhaps you'll win. Perhaps you'll be the first woman in history to rule the Ironborn. And perhaps not.
I'd hedge my bets on the latter. Balon Greyjoy was a terrible king. What Ironborn in their right mind would vote for his closest advisor?
Can it be done?
There are some with this power.
I thought you said that red priests/priestesses have absolutely no power whatsoever. You just ask the Red God and he complies as he wills. Jon's been dead for at least several days at this point, and in a fairly cold environment, so I'd imagine the rigor mortis will give him a hard time moving around after he comes back to life. What's with the snake tongue? Can't you just do it in plain English, like the other guy did? And the hair washing? Why does this all of a sudden require such a convoluted procedure? I see Kit Harington went to the school of sharp breathing when you wake up after falling unconscious in a fight. Also, was there really any tension here? We all knew the second that the Red Woman was brought in that this was going to happen. Is my dick still there? Speaking of which, in the last episode, there was a piece of cloth that was covering said area, which has since vanished.
After they stabbed you, after you died, where did you go? What did you see?
Nothing.
Statement on religion?
I don't know how to do that. I thought I did, but... I failed.
And how exactly did you fail? Didn't you get the wildlings south of the wall? Exactly what you set out to do? I mean, you didn't bring all of them, but I'd hardly call what you managed a failure. Or is this just another case of saying things because they sound good?
I saw your pecker.
No, you didn't. Shut the f*** up. Sam, it's called looking at the horizon. You should try it sometime. Also, judging from how little those lanterns are moving, it hardly seems like the ship is swaying anywhere near enough to make someone sick.
I'll stay in Old Town then.
By yourself? With a baby and no money?
Wait, you're telling me John gave you money to pay for the boat trip to Old Town, but neither him nor Sam thought far enough ahead to realise they would need to pay for some basic living expenses for Gilly and Little Sam were they to go with him?
To become a maester so I can help John when the time comes. So you'll be safe.
Us and everyone else in the world.
I don't care about them. Well, I do. But I don't really.
Well, in that case, you should probably just go live on an island somewhere, if the White Walkers are the main things you're worried about threatening the safety of Gilly and Little Sam. Oh, I shouldn't find that funny, but I do. F*** you all. You may be expecting me to sing the era of clear sky in one shot and overcast in the next, and fine, I will. But, I mean, we're flashing back to a time when Robert Baratheon was alive, and the f***ing king, holy shit!
I looked for you on the Trident.
And we weren't there.
Your friend, the usurper, would lie beneath the ground if we had been.
X to doubt. Also, how did these guys find out that Robert Baratheon was now the king? Rhaegar definitely wouldn't have been able to tell them about his coronation, when you consider he was 6 feet under at the time. Excessive screaming. Holy shit. Why is the show bothering to attempt to build any tension? It's not like we know Ned Stark survives this, as he's basically the main character in the first season of this show. Not at all.
He stabbed him in the back.
More Brannerating. So, has Howland Reed got regeneration powers? Or was he just being a pussy?
Brother!
F***ing time travel! Moreover, why would hearing father even elicit a reaction from Ned at this time in his life? Robb probably was born by this point, but I don't believe Ned would know, as I'm pretty sure he hadn't travelled back to Winterfell since Robert's rebellion started. Give me a goddamn f***ing break. But seriously, wasn't this statue like 10 meters high in season 1? And if the Dothraki can build something this big, grand and well engineered, something that rivals the Titan of Braavos, then why are they only capable of building basic daub and wassail houses at best? I should probably sing Daenerys' absurd speed in getting dressed. But then again, Emilia Clarke has probably had a lot of practice at redressing during her time on this show. Also, why would it be her mistake? Khal Morro, or whatever he's called, brought you here, pretty much against your will, not the random Dosh Khaleen woman. Wait, so if a widowed Khaleesi goes out into the world instead of returning to Vaes Dothrak, then they're not immediately granted the title of Dosh Khaleen and all the things that come along with it? Because Khal Morro was prepared to f*** the tits off Daenerys until he heard that he was Khal Drogo's wife. Yet if Daenerys was not eligible to the protections of the Dosh Khaleen, then there wouldn't have been anything stopping Khal Morro from doing what he liked with her.
Vanna. That's all right. I know who you are and what you've done.
Apparently, Varys' little birds managed to find out that this woman is connected to the power structure of the Sons of the Harpy, something that would most likely require spying on verbal conversations. Yet in the process, they failed to actually find out who the people were, which would most likely be extremely f***ing obvious, more so than it already is.
And you've helped the Sons of the Harpy murder the Unsullied and the Second Sons.
The Unsullied and the Second Sons are foreign soldiers.
Are they? Are people from neighbouring cities considered foreign now?
I've already booked passage for a woman and her young son. I'll even throw in a bag of silver to help you start again. Though I'm afraid we'll have to ask one of our leather-clad friends back in to carry it. Far too heavy for me.
Yes, because that certainly won't attract the attention of the Sons of the Harpy at all.
That's good. That's very good. But that's a report. I was thinking more of a conversation.
Well, the thing is, informative statements such as reports usually tangent off into conversations. In fact, that's how most conversations start.
There, that's a start.
Only the girls.
Oh, no. Not that, of course not that. Innocent games, fun games, drinking games.
Drinking games are innocent? Also, I know a good one. Take a drink whenever someone refers to themselves in the third person in the Bravos subplot. You'll be admitted to hospital with alcohol poisoning by episode 4.
Learning who funds the Sons of the Harpy, some things you can't rush.
You found out?
The good masters of Astapor and the wise masters of Yunkai, with help from their friends in Volantis.
F*** me. It took them 12.5 episodes to work that out.
You may be right.
So we would fight them?
Possibly.
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 Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Will Lord Varys ever come back?
I don't think so. You miss him?
He was nice. He called us his little birds. He gave us sweets.
Wow. Why has no one else thought to hire children as spies, with the only payment necessary being sweets? Oh, that's right, because kids are dumb f***ing idiots who would constantly spill their secrets to people they're not supposed to.
What did you do to him exactly? I haven't been able to get a clear answer.
Oh, a number of things.
Translation: the writers wanted a near unkillable juggernaut Darth Vader type character on the show.
Don't stop at the city. I want little birds in Dawn, in Highgarden, in the north.
I thought Qyburn had already taken control of Varys' birds, which cover pretty much all of Westeros. Is it an organised network thing? Or did Varys literally have to constantly travel to all these places to bribe little kids?
And I, for one, think it will be in our best interest to have the beast destroyed.
Fart jokes.
Do you consider the murder of your own blood a troublesome issue?
The same women who murdered Marcella have overthrown House Martell and taken control of Dawn. We've got a lot to discuss. All of us, together.
I'm sure he considered the deaths of his sons a troublesome issue. Yet the Karstarks were let off the hook because they abandoned Robb Stark. But the shoe's on the other foot when it's your own children, hey Cersei? How did you even get in here without bloodshed? Last time Tommen approached the Sept while the High Sparrow was praying, he was stopped at the door. 3 minutes of indoctrination.
Who were you before you came here?
Arya Stark.
Jesus Christ, Arya should have approximately 2 teeth left by the end of this season, with perhaps some brain damage as well.
And 4 brothers.
Wait, what? That's true, isn't it? As far as she knows.
3 brothers. Robb, Bran, Rickon. And a half-brother.
Oh, of course. Prefix Nazi.
And where are they now?
They may be dead for all a girl knows.
That's a lie. You know that at least one of them are dead for sure. Drugs.
Who else was on Arya Stark's funny little list?
Cersei Lannister. Gregor Clegane. Walder Frey.
That's a short list. That can't be everyone you want to kill.
Well, there's the Red Woman, Beric Dondarrion, Thoros of Myr, Ilyn Payne, and since she has no way of knowing that he's died, Tywin Lannister.
If a girl is truly no one, she has nothing to fear.
Well then, a girl should die as soon as she takes a sip from the cup. Oh, of course.
Your father was a and that's why you killed him. I might have done the same to my father if he hadn't have done me the favour of dying on his own.
Apparently, he died with no screen time for several seasons later. I hear they've only just managed to save Gendry from the same fate.
You think a horde of wildlings can take Winterfell?
If they get Jon Snow leading them, maybe. He knows his place better than we ever will.
Why does everyone keep saying that the Starks would have such an advantage during a battle for Winterfell? Wasn't Winterfell completely rebuilt after Ramsay torched it in Season 2? If so, wouldn't that work against Jon Snow or any other Starks who choose to attack Winterfell?
How do I know that's Rickon Stark?
Because having a direwolf head instantly proves that the random kid you brought here is a Stark. I thought direwolves were now appearing south of the wall anyway. You would have thought that given the nature of the Night's Watch, they would have a far more standardized method of executing people, not some thrown together rickety short drop and sudden stop contraption. Considering how central Ollie is surrounding Jon Snow's death, does no one find it strange that they didn't give him a single line this season? No one? Okay.
You have Castle Black. My watch is ended.
Ah yes, instead of saying that to his face, I'll say it while walking away. It'll feel more epic.
How can you leave us now?
I did everything I could, you know.
You swore a vow.
Aye, I pledged my life to the Night's Watch. I gave my life.
For all knights to come.
They killed me, Ed, my own brothers.
That's a pretty weak argument if you ask me. The brothers who killed you are dead. Watchmen who commit mutiny usually receive the same punishment. And Jon is not so naive to think that everyone who joins the Watch thinks of it as a band of brothers and considers their peers as such. But seriously, Jon's literally got no rivals in Castle Black. He can now run the Watch at a level of efficiency and effectiveness that he's never been able to before. He knows the wall is the best chance they have to fend off the walkers. Why the f*** would he leave?
Open the gate!
Oh, that's right, because the gods foresee something battle at Winterfell, something. Also, hasn't this gate been destroyed by 1-1? Random Stark soldier uniform. Hey Jon, I got raped daily by a sadistic lunatic with a skinning fetish. Yeah, well I got f***ing killed, Sansa. You know, for as much as I give this show shit for its dumb plot contrivances and fanfiction style of writing, this moment felt hard-earned, and it's worth a good few sins off.
Or should we tell the Boltons to pack up and leave?
We'll take it back from them.
I don't have an army.
You don't need an army. All you need is 20 good men.
I've fought. And I lost.
Jesus Christ, please stop using that stupid quote. It's not even a good quote. Never mind does it make any f***ing sense.
If we don't take back the North, we'll never be safe.
You know, it would have been nice if Jon had realised this before he sent his best chance of securing the North to Winterfell to die.
You serve Jon Snow now.
He's the prince that was promised.
Why? Because he came back to life? If that's the thing that made you decide that Jon is this prince that was promised, then what about Beric Dondarrion? That has been resurrected like 7 times.
I'm Shireen. What happened to the princess?
I saw what happened.
It would be nice if characters could use their superhuman hearing for things other than eavesdropping on random conversations so they can join in. This You might enjoy better luck with aiming your bow if you weren't wearing such baggy clothing.
You told me you were taking Sansa Stark home with you to the Fingers.
Indeed I was.
And yet, not long ago, we received reports that she has been married to Ramsay Bolton in Winterfell.
On our way to the Fingers, we were set upon by a large force of Bolton men. Seemed to know exactly when we were travelling and exactly whom we were transporting.
Do you take me for a fool?
I believe he does, because travelling between Runestone and the Fingers would require following the east coast of the Vale, and it should be virtually impossible for any sizable foreign military force to get that deep into the Vale completely unnoticed.
Should we throw him through the moon door?
I think this might be the 3rd case of Littlefingery. I might have even removed a sin, if the premise that he frames Lord Royce on wasn't so dumb.
Our Lord has spoken. Gather the Knights of the Vale. The time has come to join the fray.
You know, it actually would have made far more sense if Littlefinger had gathered the Knights of the Vale to support Stannis in the Battle of Winterfell. Littlefinger married Sansa to Ramsay on the pretense that she wouldn't have to remain married to him for long, as Stannis would have taken Winterfell and executed the Boltons. Not only would Stannis be in a favourable position to gain the Iron Throne, allowing Littlefinger to grow his power and influence extensively, but he would probably stand a far better chance of getting into Sansa's pants, or whatever he wants to do.
You invite the enemy into our city.
I did.
I wonder what the conversation sounded like that led Tyrion to bring down Grey Worm and Missandei to the docks with absolutely no idea why they were going until they saw the ship sailing in.
As a clever man once told me, we make peace with our enemies, not our friends.
Oh, I have no doubt that Littlefinger is a clever man, but I'm sure he said that to Ned Stark, not Tyrion.
Make peace with the Lannisters, you say?
with the people who tried to murder my boy.
We only make peace with our enemies, my lord. That's why it's called making peace.
Our queen tried to make peace with the masters, and they tried to murder her.
She tried to make peace with the masters of Yunkai, not the masters of Astapor or Volantis.
What does that mean? Instead of abolishing slavery overnight, we will give you 7 years to end the practice.
Oh, come on. 7 years is way too excessive. It's not like changing from a system of slavery to a more capitalist system would require years-long infrastructure projects to be built, especially considering that these are city-states, not huge empires. The changes that would need to be implemented would pretty much be limited to policies and organisation. Are these 3 not going to get their own rooms? Or are they happy to all f*** their prostitutes in the same room?
Mi roki rosa. Uso vegon. Gemosi jombegon.
Oh my god, it's not funny anymore. We get it, Tyrion can't speak Valyrian.
Because our queen chose me as her advisor. Until she returns from her travel.
When does she return?
Soon. You have my word.
Of course, soon could mean millennia on a geological timescale. I think Tyrion should market Half-Life 3.
They're trustworthy if they're convinced that working with me is in their self-interest.
You don't know them. You don't understand them. We are not human in their eyes.
That bears no relevance against trusting their self-interests. The slavers clearly like money. War costs money, so you can trust that they will probably keep the peace.
What do I have to gain? If I win, I'm the who killed an old man. If I lose, I'm the who was killed by an old man.
An old man who killed Khal Drogo's Blood Rider as well as the champion of Meereen in single combat. That's got to mean something.
There's 100,000 of them down there. We can't fight our way out. We wait till dark, and then we'll find out.
Why wait till dark? The streets seem far less crowded in the day than in the night. You know, if you're actively sneaking through the back streets of Erstothrak instead of blending in plain sight, then why not bring your weapons? People are bound to not buy the merchant explanation if you're snooping around several miles from the markets. That should have been enough to alert everyone in the street. Or at least turn some heads to see a guy getting his neck snapped. Hang on, so you're telling me that violence and murder are completely fine and accepted in Erstothrak, but if the violence and murder is inflicted with weapons, you deserve to be executed by getting scalded to death with molten gold? Wow, so did this girl also fall victim to Stockholm Syndrome with a Carl? I didn't realise that Carls were so charismatic and commanding at the same time.
We will never get out of Erstothrak alive.
All we can do is try.
You've basically already escaped. I'm surprised Marjorie hasn't lost her mind. She's been in solitary confinement in an empty cell for the better part of a year, and the only human contact in that time has been with an abusive nun who beats her while reciting religious texts.
Of course. But for you, that means seeking out money, finery, power. Seeking out your family means seeking out sin.
How is power a sin? Don't most religious texts promote a more structured lifestyle? And people need to have power to enforce a structure.
A story I was telling myself about who I was. A collection of lies that would disappear in the light. The people I was trying to climb away from. The beggars in the street, the poor. They were closer to the truth than I ever was.
So, basically, what the High Sparrow is saying, people who keep themselves busy by attempting to build themselves up and contribute to the economy and society don't leave time to think about the gods, so they're bad. But the people who beg on the streets have time to think about the gods, so they're good. Seems legit. Discount Reek.
Never was strong.
You are strong. You are the future of our house, the future of our family.
Well, now that Loras has basically been publicly shamed for his bedroom affairs, I wouldn't count on that whole future of House Tyrell thing.
You have to be careful not to antagonize him. He has Marjorie. We can't put her at risk. He's dangerous. Look at me. What did they do to me? To the king's own mother.
Yeah, but didn't you advise Tommen against attacking the Sparrows last season? Oh yeah, but now that you've had a taste of their medicine, you want them all dead? You're really making it transparent to your son just how vain and selfish you are.
The High Sparrow has no respect for kings or queens. No respect for anything in this world. He has no use for the things of this world. He wants to knock them down and replace them with what? With fantasies. With beggars in the street.
Oh, the High Sparrow does not need to do anything to put beggars on the street.
In a few days he'll have a trial for me. But before that, Queen Marjorie will make her walk of atonement.
Wait, since when did Marjorie confess? She hadn't confessed before the scene where she talked to Loras, yet Cersei supposedly got the information from Tommen, who saw the High Sparrow before Marjorie could have confessed.
You've got the second largest army in Westeros. You'll bring them into the city, stop Queen Marjorie's humiliation before it starts, and take her back into crown custody.
What makes you think that Marjorie would be any safer if you made a move against the Sparrows just before her Walk of Atonement? Also, aren't you forgetting about Loras? He's still in Sparrow custody, and making a move against them will put his safety at risk as well.
If it doesn't go as planned, the Sparrows have many friends in this city. We'll have civil war, many will die.
Many will die no matter what we do. Better them than us.
Yeah, but the whole point of this is to bring justice to Marjorie, Cersei and Loras for their humiliation, and to reinforce the crown's superiority. If it doesn't go as planned, Marjorie and Loras could die, the whole city would be consumed by war, the crown's authority wouldn't extend beyond the walls of the Red Keep, and House Lannister and House Tyrell will be painted as violent tyrants in the eyes of the public.
He broke me. He broke me into 1,000 pieces.
I know.
You don't know?
He sent us one of those pieces.
Then why were you so surprised when Theon had turned into a beat dog, given that the culture of the Ironborn revolves around grieving and raping? For an Ironborn man to lose his dick must put a real downer on his morale.
Do you think any Ironborn wants you to be king? After what you've done?
Evidently so, as during the King's Moon next episode, Theon has to make a speech to the Ironborn renouncing his claim to the throne, and why Yara should be queen.
I should have listened to you. You're the only one.
That doesn't matter anymore. Stop crying.
If it doesn't matter, then why did you spend 2 minutes berating him for it? Also, Theon should be able to rationalise this in his head. If he escaped the Dreadfort with Yara, then he wouldn't have stayed around long enough to allow Sansa to escape. So because Sansa escaped, she will soon convince Jon to attack and ultimately take Winterfell, eradicating House Bolton and avenging all the Ironborn killed and mutilated by Ramsay during the War of the Five Kings. Okay, I think the trope of sadistic characters smiling when sadistic thoughts come into their mind has been well and truly exhausted on Ramsay. You may as well just give him a twirlable moustache at this point.
I can give you what you want.
And you're sure you know what that is?
Same thing men always want.
Men like Loras Tyrell.
You told me everything. All about the Stark boys, and who helped them escape, and how she did it.
Wait, what? Theon never found out that Osha helped Bran on Rickon escaped. For all he could know, she could have just turned tail and fled Winterfell alone the night she slept with him, and he certainly had no way of knowing exactly how she did it. Sad. It seems they couldn't cure Osha's no screen time for several seasons-itis in time. So tragic. Just no. Please. Just no.
Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North.
His father's dead. Ramsay killed him.
You seem really sure about that. It's fake news. Roose Bolton was poisoned by his enemies.
And now he has Rickon.
We don't know that.
Yes, we do.
Because Ramsay is known for always telling the truth. I mean, I know most of the stuff in this letter is true, but why are they taking everything in this letter at face value, even though the point of Ramsay sending the letter was to try and coerce them into attacking Winterfell?
How many do you have?
That can march and fight. 2,000.
But I thought more than 5,000 wildlings were saved from Hardhome. How can over half the population be children and old people? Especially when you consider that the wildling way of life is centered around survival of the fittest, meaning that most of the people who would have been able to make it onto those boats will be the same kind of people who will be able to march and fight. I thought Dario stabbed the guy through the chest. So if they then proceeded to smash the guy's head in, why didn't they still see the stab wound and realize that he was actually killed by a knife? What is up with Khal Moro? One second he's insisting that Daenerys is unconditionally a member of the Dosh Khaleen, and the next, he's threatening Daenerys with the prospect of not being granted Dosh Khaleen. Speaking of which, why couldn't the Khals such as Khal Morro have been more supportive of Daenerys, similar to Drogo? It would have been far more believable if the Dothraki rallied behind an actual Dothraki Khal who's lived in the culture for his entire life, instead of what actually happens. Really? Because this building looks absolutely nothing like the building where that stuff happens in Season 1. Hey Daenerys, you know your beloved Drogo? Yeah, he also raided villages, raped women, and threatened cities for the resources. Physics! Thermodynamics! That's not how fire works! So, last night, Daario and Jorah were nearly caught by the Dothraki when they were actively avoiding them by sneaking through the back alleys. Now, you're telling me that they can suddenly walk up to the Temple of the Dosh Khaleen, which is in the middle of an open clearing in the middle of the city, kill two guys with no weapons, bar the door, then walk back to cover, all without being spotted. This is bullshit of the highest order. Also, several men strong enough to be Khals pulling against the door should easily be enough to break that tree branch barring it. Is there some kind of prophecy that states if someone is immune to fire, then every Dothraki is sworn to serve them? Because if not, wouldn't the strongest of the Khal's blood riders simply declare themselves as Khals themselves, and the rest of the Dothraki would be absorbed into these new Khalasars, just like what happened to Drogo's Khalasar when he died? To quote Jorah Mormont himself, this isn't Westeros where men honour blood. Here, they only honour strength. Also, why are people behind the temple bowing down? They have no idea what they're even bowing down to.
How far is Molestown?
Talking to yourself. Hold on, why is Molestown still in ruins? If Jon's got 5,000 people who he needs to house and feed, surely the best place to allow them to settle would be the pre-existing empty settlement just a couple miles south of Castle Black.
What are you doing here?
I rode north with the Knights of the Vale to come to your aid. They're encamped at Moat Caelan as we speak.
And this happened without Ramsay even knowing?
Did you know about Ramsay? If you didn't know, you're an idiot. If you did know, you're my enemy.
Well, seeing as you yourself didn't know, are you calling yourself an idiot?
Maybe you did know about Ramsay all along.
I didn't know.
I thought we knew everyone's secrets.
What do you mean? His network of spies never extended beyond the walls of King's Landing, and even if they did, Ramsay had only been made a lord, and therefore a relevant target for spying on, a few weeks or so before Littlefinger planned on marrying you to Sansa.
Go back to Moat Caelan. My brother and I will take back the North on our own. I never want to see you again.
Okay, now Sansa's just being a c***. Literally hundreds, if not thousands of people are now going to die because she was too butthurt to accept Littlefinger's support.
Your great uncle, Brynden, the Blackfish, has gathered what remains of the Tully forces and retaken River Run. You might consider seeking him out. The time may come when you need an army loyal to you.
I have an army.
Your brother's army. Half-brother.
Okay, what are you implying? Just because the Wildling army is loyal to Jon Snow, it's not as effective an army for Sansa to use? The Tully army is loyal to the Blackfish, and the Knights of the Vale are loyal to Robin Arryn. There are very few fighting men left in Westeros that hold direct loyalty to House Stark, and by extension, Sansa. Indirect loyalty is the best she can get at the moment.
You're not ready.
Because fighting with pikes is the most defining skill of a faceless man. It's not like an effective assassin would prioritize stealthy methods of killing as opposed to single combat. The stabbing maneuver seems pretty ineffective for a blunt weapon such as a wooden pole. Yet Arya does it 3 times, failing every time to realize the massive advantage it gives to her opponent.
A girl has been given a second chance. There will not be a third.
Hang on, if Jaqen can override the waif's judgment on if Arya is ready for a second chance, it would imply that Jaqen is of a higher standing within the ranks of the Faceless Men, which would imply that there's some kind of power structure, which goes against the entire philosophy of the Faceless Men. Donald Baratheon.
Shut up, you swine! Cersei, more wine!
What? Are you saying that King Robert's crippling alcohol addictions wasn't something to be kept behind closed doors? Also, it's kind of ironic that this play, which is meant to be a satire/comedy on the previous events of the show, doesn't even contain the worst dialogue and unbelievable plot contrivances in this season alone. That should be worth a couple of sins by itself.
Ned Stark will do fine. Now bring me more wine.
Okay, this is probably an unfair thing to point out, but Tyrion shouldn't have his scar at this point. These events being portrayed are before the Battle of the Blackwater.
Show him mercy. Show the people what a good king should be.
Good people, you may all relax. My father's friend shall be spared this.
Alright, no. It doesn't matter what bullshit propaganda that Joffrey pushed out about what truly happened during Ned Stark's execution. There were literally thousands of people there to witness Joffrey proclaim Ned Stark a traitor and calling for his head.
And he's given me permission to take Sansa as my wife!
Yeah, as if people would buy that explanation. Oh, but I would have married Sansa and overturned Tywin's order, but Tyrion slapped me. Non-prosthetic dick.
Oh, what's this, darling? Oh, stinks of me.
Who let Arya in here? But more importantly, this is a group of travelling actors who would likely know everyone in their group, or at least recognise an unfamiliar face.
You can do better, Bianca dear. You must do.
I had 2 lines.
There are no small parts.
No small parts? I just saw one 20 seconds ago. Also, are these people all family, or are they just really close work colleagues who all be fine with clothing being optional?
If a girl could use one of the faces from the Hall.
How would that even help? Well, unless you've got the face of Nicolas Cage or Kevin Bacon in there.
Who wants her dead?
That does not matter. The price was paid.
The younger actress. She's jealous because Lady Crane is better.
A girl must decide if she wants to serve the many-faced god.
A girl has decided.
You know, it's actually quite hilarious that it's taking Arya this long to realise, oh wait, all the Faceless Men do is take assassination orders from butthurt scumbags while beating each other with sticks and smoking weed, and the whole reason I came here was to gain the ability to kill people who are actually bad people and have wronged me, my family, or innocent people. Also, didn't Jaqen say in Season 2 that Arya could offer the names on her list to the Many-Faced God?
Names to offer up to the Red God. She could offer them all. One by one.
But all of a sudden the Faceless Men have changed their business strategy by just offering their services to the highest bidder. Discount Stonehenge. Bran and the Three-Eyed Raven always seem to be able to instantly teleport from ridges or balconies to spots which would take a minute or two to reach on foot. Granted, it is a vision, so the regular rules don't apply, but they always end up teleporting too far away from the point of interest and end up needing to walk some more. You need to give the guy's legs a break. He's several millennia old. Wait, what? Dragonglass daggers can turn regular humans into White Walkers? Why does the Night King need to kidnap babies then? Why doesn't he just kidnap wildlings and shove something that resembles a Coca-Cola ice pop into his heart? And hey presto, you've got yourself a fully grown White Walker in a matter of seconds. I wonder if White Walkers go through puberty.
When I am queen, we will build a fleet. The likes I am not finished.
Yes, you are. A woman will not lead us.
Is the drowned god priest guy not going to stop this guy from butting in? What's the point in having the Kingsmoot being mediated if he's not going to do any mediating?
I'm Euron Greyjoy. I claim the Salt Throne.
And Euron's Salt Throne will presumably be made out of the salt of the book reader's tears after watching this poor excuse for a Kingsmoot scene.
Heard you managed to f things right into the ground. Captured a castle you couldn't keep.
Wait, I thought capturing a castle that you couldn't keep was a rite of passage for an Ironborn. I'm pretty sure everyone at this Kingsmoot's lost at least one castle in their careers.
Now I know what my first act as queen will be. To execute the man who killed my father.
I did. I killed him.
What the actual f***? You're seriously telling me the Ironborn risked, or even gave their lives, to attempt to rescue Theon from the Dreadfort, but don't even bat an eye at the notion of kinslaying?
I apologize to you all for not killing him years ago.
So is there just no law against regicide? Because even in a democratic system like this, there are still going to be people living under a ruler who they didn't vote for. So there would need to be some kind of punishment for king killing, or every king of the Iron Islands would enjoy a glorious 5 seconds of reigning until the salty runner-up throws a knife into his chest, rinse and repeat.
I'm going to build that fleet, and I'm going to gallivant right over and give it to Daenerys Targaryen along with my big cock.
Translation: the writers realize they still need some ships to bring Daenerys and her army over to Westeros for Season 7. They consulted their list of big guys with big ships, and guess what? We were at the top of it! What the f*** did I just witness? The Ironborn elected a kinslaying, dishonorable as opposed to someone who has lived there for her entire life and sailed above many of them? Because what? He gave a slightly different speech? I guess this truly indicates why the Ironborn lose so many wars. They choose their leader based on the biggest cock. It's quite convenient that no one noticed Yara, Theon, and half of the Ironborn attending the King's Moot, who were, interestingly, the half who voted for Yara, mysteriously disappear off instead of attending the coronation of their rightfully elected king.
Where are my niece and nephew? Let's go murder them.
I shouldn't have to say anything here.
Go back to your homes. Chop down every tree you can find. Quarter saw the timber and start building. I want every man bending planks. I want every woman spinning flax for sails. Build me 1,000 ships, and I will give you this world.
Because that's how shipbuilding works.
I banished you. Twice. You came back. Twice. And you saved my life.
Twice.
Do not walk away from your queen, Jorah the Andal.
Wow. Even Daenerys is calling Jorah an Andal. He's not an Andal. He's a Northman. And you should know that, considering you want to take the continent of Westeros and rule it.
In the last fortnight, since our pact with the Masters, how many killings have been carried out by the Sons of the Harpy?
None.
And how many Masters have been butchered by the Freemen?
2. But that was the day of the pact. Since then, nothing.
Why would the Freemen stop attacking the Masters? If anything, the pact with the Masters would have just aggregated the hate the Freemen have against the Masters.
It's not enough for Meereen to have peace. They need to know Daenerys is responsible for it.
Even though everyone in the city already knows it was you guys who made the pact.
Someone they know cannot be bought or influenced.
Sounds like quite the hero. Where will we find him?
Who said anything about him?
Jehi chiari kinvaro iorat. Eglio vocto hen regibliot volantico. Drivo persu, Silvio onio. Toheriro elio exio oniusit.
Discount Daenerys. Also, why can't a Red Priestess be influenced? Melisandre was influenced to believe that Stannis Baratheon was the prince who was promised. Yet she now believes that to be Jon Snow, who, for all we know, could also be wrong.
Ideally, we'd avoid purifying too many non-believers. The Mother of Dragons has followers of many different faiths.
Yet, for some reason, you're only recruiting Red Priests, meaning that this propaganda tactic is only going to be effective against a fraction of the population.
When the sorcerer tossed your parts in the fire, you heard a voice call out from the flames. Do you remember?
Discount Bran Stark. Also, if this Red Priestess is truly omniscient, then why didn't she and her Red Priestesses see that Meereen was in trouble and preemptively come to spread the word to prevent civil war? Why did Tyrion have to send word to them to come to Meereen? Hang on. In this scene, the spiral of stones barely seems to extend beyond the branches of the tree, yet in this scene earlier in the episode, the stones extend out much further away from the weirwood. Not to mention, all the terrain has changed in the surrounding area. What happened to the ridge that Bran was standing on in the last flashback? Also, the army of the dead are standing where a river was in the last flashback.
He knows you are here. He'll come for you.
But he can't get in.
He can now. His mark is on you. You must leave, all of you.
And by leave, I mean gingerly gather your stuff together and wait until the army of the dead are here before making your escape. Isn't it convenient that the Night's Watch had all of these tactics board pieces just lying around?
There are more than 3 other houses in the north. Glover, Mormont, Kerwin, Mason, Hornwood. 24 more. Together they equal all the others. We can start small and build.
Why does everyone keep forgetting about House Manderley? They're supposed to be on par with House Umber and House Karstark, and the heir to House Manderley died at the Red Wedding. Yet apparently they don't think that there will be a good enough reason to even attempt to convince the Manderleys to fight alongside them against the Boltons.
And there are also the Tullys. They're not northern, but they will back us against the Boltons without question.
I didn't know the Tullys still had an army.
My uncle, the Blackfish, has reformed it and retaken River Run.
How'd you know that?
Ramsay received a raven before I escaped Winterfell.
Why would Ramsay of all people receive a raven informing him that the Tullys have retaken Riverrun? The Boltons are essentially in open rebellion against the crown since they married Sansa into their family, so it's not like anyone south of the Neck would have sent one.
Davos and the Red Woman helped a man murder his own brother with blood magic. And when Stannis paid for his crime, where were they? Already out looking for a leader with better prospects.
Says the one who immediately swore herself to Catelyn the day after Renly died.
Jon isn't Tormund. Jon isn't Davos or the Red Woman or Stannis for that matter. Jon is Jon. He's my brother. He'll keep me safe. I trust him.
Then why did you lie to him when he asked you how you learned about Riverrun?
Maybe because Davos, the Red Woman, and Tormund were in the same room.
New dress.
I made it myself. Do you like it?
I like the wolf bit.
So, not only does the Night's Watch have a bunch of tactics board pieces lying around, but they also have full sewing and embroidery kits stocked with multicolored sequins.
Should we close the gate, Lord Commander?
I'm not the Lord Commander.
Well, he isn't really, is he? Don't they need to elect a new one now? Why did none of the children go back inside the cave to warn Mira and Hodor that the army were approaching, seeing as they would have been easily visible for about a mile or so? Completely pointless move that has never been seen before and is never seen again. Why are none of the children lobbing those dragon glass throwing spears at the walkers that are a mere 30 feet away? Well, never mind then. They are awful shots. In Season 4, they were able to perfectly nail running targets, yet now they can't even manage to hit one of the main 4 walkers that are gingerly walking 20 feet away. Also, seeing how explosive these magic balls are, these twigs should have been completely obliterated when they attempted to light them.
And try to stay out of fights.
Yes, Father.
But if you have to fight, win.
Is it really necessary for Bran to see all of this? Why is the three-eyed raven keeping Bran in a catatonic state if his life is in serious danger? I believe this is now the 5th direwolf Ex Machina of the series.
You have to wake up! We need Hodor!
Hodor!
For some reason, the Whites keep going for the people who are armed instead of the guy sat in the corner who is completely defenseless. That guy should have dodged. The whole reason for this tunnel's existence is so people can have fast-paced chase scenes down it. Hold on. Before, the Whites couldn't touch fire to the point where they felt the need to enter the cave through the roof, but now they're perfectly fine walking over flaming roots that 10 seconds ago was the site of a huge fiery explosion? I'm sorry for saying this, But even an absolute unit like Hodor wouldn't be able to hold the door against hundreds of wights pushing against it, especially when you consider that he's standing on snow.
Hold the door!
Surely this should have happened when Bran initially walked into Hodor back when they were still in the cave. That being said... Bran and Mira have made it way too far considering that Hodor was about to fall when they were no more than 200 feet away from the door, and now they've got hundreds of thousands of wights chasing them down while they flee at slower than walking speed. Bran's eyes are gonna freeze over if he stays like this for much longer. Why would anyone bring a torch into a room with wildfire? Isn't the Iron Throne meant to be filled with dragon skulls at this point? Also, Jaime Lannister in his late teens apparently looked the same as Jaime Lannister in his 40s. Why don't you just go around? Why are you trying to pull it over the roots of a tree? Half-dead horseman ex machina. Hang on, if this wight was completely disintegrated after being knocked into a tree, then how did all the wights survive throwing themselves off a cliff at Hardhome? And again here, what's the matter with these wights? Did the Night King put them back together with Pritt Stick instead of Flex Glue? Is Sam and Gilly only arriving at Hornhill just now? They set off from the wall last season. They must have been travelling for 6 months or something. When King Robert's party travelled south from Winterfell to King's Landing in Season 1, it took no longer than a month. Granted, it's a somewhat shorter distance, but it was also party of several hundred, travelling exclusively by road.
And of course, now that summer's over, you'll start seeing the autumn colours coming in.
Coming in? Summer ended over 4.5 years ago, and the Maesters are going to declare that it's winter any day now. Also, I don't think I've seen any trees with autumn colours other than weirwoods.
Didn't think I'd ever come back here after my father made me renounce my title and inheritance and, well, threatened to kill me if I didn't. A person just doesn't feel welcome at that point. And I certainly didn't expect to be introducing into my family. So, you know what to tell them.
That little Sam is your baby.
Yes, no, that's very important.
But at the same time, if they say he's Sam's baby, then that means he's openly admitting to breaking his Night's Watch vows. Giving Randall Tarly another reason to kill Samwell might not be the best idea either. These guys should have brought some lighter clothing. Or any additional change of clothing for that matter, considering they've been travelling for 6 fucking months.
Hello? God, you're a woman now.
Father says I have to marry Simon Fossaway. He has yellow teeth.
That's enough, Tala.
That's the first thing that you say to your brother after you haven't seen him for over 5 years?
You have a curious mind, I can tell. You'll be a scholar, like your father.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be a scholar, a knight, an explorer, and an architect, considering how slow he ages. He should have plenty of time to master all of those within his life and still leave room for a decent retirement.
It just seems very dangerous.
She'll be protected the entire way. The Faith militant are very stern with those who overstep their bounds.
And yet to look at the state that Cersei was in after her atonement.
No, you don't. You could never. You're right, he's not. He's a lot more... He is.
How can anyone say this with a straight face? Marjorie should have gone into acting.
I was just telling him about your devotion to the poor.
Ah, yes. I visited their hovels and I fed them soup and I made sure I was seen doing it. I never gave them what they really needed, though.
What do you mean? You offered to feed, clothe, and house children from an overcrowded orphanage. I think Tommen has sat on that bench more often than he's sat on the Iron Throne at this point. Wait, so they gave Gilly an elegant evening gown to wear to dinner, while Sam's forced to wear the same sweaty clothes that he's been wearing for the past 6 months?
It's hard to walk in this.
Probably because it was made for a girl about a foot shorter than you?
Brought it down from 70 yards, one shot.
That's oddly precise. I guess it would be befitting of House Tarly, but do you think they would really measure the distance of long shot kills?
So do you do much hunting up at the wall?
Oh, yes. Yes, A good amount. North of the wall, you don't hunt, you don't eat.
Apart from when you stopped at Craster's Keep, then you get to go on the hunt for other things, if you know what I mean. Wink.
Mostly deer, or is it elk as well?
Rabbits. Sometimes squirrels.
If rabbits and squirrels are the only kind of game north of the wall, and game is the only source of food north of the wall, then how come hundreds of thousands of wildlings have lived up there for thousands of years? You'd think they would have all died of scurvy, let alone starvation.
Not fat enough already.
Because eating a 4-course meal won't make you fat, but eating a 4-course meal plus an additional loaf of bread will condemn you to a life of obesity. Also, I probably should have brought this up earlier, but how come Sam hasn't lost any weight since his time at the wall, given that he was subject to far more physical exercise and far less available food than he would have had here at Hornhill?
I thought the Night's Watch might make a man of you. Something resembling a man, at least.
Why would you think that? Don't you know that the Watch has 3 branches, only one of which does the incredibly manly things? Take a wild f***ing guess as to which branch Sam didn't end up in.
Can wield a sword. He killed a Then. Killed a White Walker.
Which were killed by a crossbow and a dagger respectively.
He drove a dagger into the Walker's heart.
Back.
He's a greater warrior than either of you will ever be.
I don't know what's worse, the stupidity of the thing that Gilly just said, or the stupidity of Gilly herself.
It was a wildling horde that seduced my son.
Didn't Lord Randall basically unname Samwell as his son the day he forced him to join the Watch? If so, then why is he taking this so personally?
Goodbye, Gilly.
Isn't that a double bed? Why do you have to say goodbye now?
What about your mother and sister?
What about the f***ing guards?
Sam, won't he come for it?
He can bloody well try.
The last drink he shall ever take, and vengeance shall be mine.
I always thought pantomimes were for families, yet I don't think I've seen anyone in this audience who could pass as a child.
My firstborn son.
Secondborn. What about this guy?
I lost my first boy. Little black-haired beauty. He was a fighter too.
Wait, they didn't include the best part of Season 4? Oberyn versus the Mountain? I'd imagine the duel would be well known by the general public, whether the Crown likes it or not.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Bianca. Coranzo. I give you Baburo. I give you Camelo. Last but not least, sweet Lady Craig.
Assuming that Camelo was the guy who played Ned Stark, what about the actress who played Marjorie Tyrell? How come Arya keeps on being allowed backstage without being apprehended? Even when you ignore the fact that everyone was standing still, so it would have been extremely difficult for Arya to slip away from the crowd, those 2 people she just walked past would have almost certainly seen Arya in the crowd, given that she was stood in the front f***ing row.
Girl, what are you doing back here?
Nothing?
I saw you the other day in the audience. How many times have you seen this stupid play?
3 times.
Did you pay?
Hold on, why are you challenging her on not paying? Shouldn't you be challenging her on trespassing backstage first and foremost?
I remember when the players came to my village. I didn't have any money, so I snuck in. Just like you.
So, why is she called Lady Crane if she isn't actually a lady?
Do you like pretending to be other people?
I was actually half expecting Lady Crane to pull back her face to reveal she's Jaqen at this point.
Oh, they loved her. They all love her. Yes, you are adored by people and animals alike.
I do what I can with what I'm given.
What you're given?
What? I was thinking.
Oh, we're all thinkers now, are we? Full to the tits with ideas.
Why is this guy so salty? Because they liked Lady Crane more than they liked him? What's so bad about that? You're still going to get paid, aren't you? And owing to how packed the theatre square seemed, you'll probably get paid quite handsomely.
Careful of that one.
She wants you dead.
And this, Mr. Hagar, is why you don't give paying jobs to first-time assassins who have a history of not killing the correct person. Also, that guy on the left looks like discount James Corden. Did they just let anyone backstage here?
Shame. The girl had many gifts.
You promised me.
What about the whole "a girl has no desires" thing? Random convenient uninhabited room in Bravos is very random and convenient. Holy shit. 10 sins off for Mace Tyrell's amazing armor. Why does the Great Scepter Baelor keep shape-shifting from season to season? In season 5, the main concourse was far narrower and the steps were multi-tiered. And in season 1, well, the clips speak for itself. Also, not only has the sept changed shape, but it has also completely changed position. Now, the main entrance faces towards the coast, whereas before, it faced towards the Red Keep.
There will be no Walk of Atonement.
Ah, but you promised. We haven't seen Natalie Dormer naked since season 2.
Queen Marjorie has already atoned for her sins by bringing another into the true light of the Seven.
Did the High Sparrow know that something was going to happen with the Walk of Atonement? Because from what I'm seeing, he told Tommen, okay, just stand next to the door with the Kingsguard. If anything goes wrong with Marjorie's atonement, then slowly walk down the stairs like a badass. Also, how did the new Kingsguard armor get smithed so quickly? And why though? Discount Barristan, sell me.
I have to answer to the gods.
Not when you're sitting in that chair.
Why isn't Kevin Lannister speaking up as well? Doesn't he hate the Sparrows just as much as Jaime and Cersei? Isn't the job of the Hand of the King to counsel the king? Especially when said king is young and inexperienced?
You did lose the Blackfish after the Red Wedding. You had him right here in this hall, and you let him leave. And when I told you to hunt him down and kill him, you couldn't find him.
Thanks for telling the audience, I mean Lothar and Blackwalder, something which they should already know.
The Malisters have risen against us, and the Blackwoods.
The Brotherhood without banners is rallying the commoners against us, raiding our supply trains and camps.
River Run can withstand a siege for a year.
If I want excuses, I'll put her in charge.
Excuses? Those are some fairly legitimate reasons to not be able to take Riverrun back, if you ask me.
He'll never yield, Father.
Oh, he'll yield.
I thought Blackwalder and Lothar had come in to inform Walder Frey that they lost Riverrun, and this was the first that he had heard of it. Yet apparently he had already organised for his guards to bring in Edmure Tully to give to them to use as a hostage in taking Riverrun back. Apparently.
Cheer up, Lord Edmure. You're going home.
Edmure Tully has not lost his mind after nearly 3 years in solitary confinement.
I'm going to give Bronn the largest bag of gold anyone's ever seen. And have him gather the best killers he knows. I'll take them to the Sept, and I'll remove the High Sparrow's head and every other sparrow head I can find.
You can't. If you kill the High Sparrow, you won't leave the Sept alive, and without you, this is all for nothing.
Didn't Jaime just say that he was going to get Bronn to do it? Given how much of a murder boner the Night King has against Bran, I'm surprised that they have the balls to not only stop and make camp, but light a campfire.
Stop the Walkers' magic from taking hold.
How?
The same way they made the Walkers in the first place. You saw it yourself.
Dragonglass.
Because of course it does. What else can Dragonglass do? Cure cancer? Achieve world peace? Lead Gendry back to shore? Also, if Dragonglass turns dying people into healthy people, and turns healthy people into White Walkers, then that implies that White Walkers are actually a higher form of existence.
Drink.
Why not just melt some snow? Why are you making him drink blood? Dragon sense. In this scene, the shadow is cast straight down, meaning that it's midday. Yet in the previous scene, the shadows being cast were long, implying that it was either late afternoon or early morning. Yet you still end up with a small group of Dothraki who serve as your generals. We interrupt tonight's showing of Game of Thrones to bring you Living with the Amish. Also, I assume these settlers are hoping to build a small village here. If so, then why are they building a sept first? Surely it would make far more sense to build a large community hall first and foremost to put a roof over everyone's heads. I know the Hound is quite the bamf, but is there really any need for him to carry tree trunks on his own? He could easily do his back in, and it's not like they're exactly short on manpower or time.
In all my days, I've never seen a man swing an axe like that.
What? He's swinging it completely normally. Communism.
Now, I reckon you die a dozen more times over the next few days, but you didn't. What kept you going?
Hate.
Discount Anakin Skywalker.
Gods aren't done with you yet.
I've heard that before. Man was talking about a different god, though.
Well, maybe he was right. I don't know much about the gods.
You're in the wrong line of work.
Oh, there's plenty of pious sons of bitches who think they know the word of God or gods. I don't. I don't even know their real names. Maybe it is the Seven. Or maybe it's the old gods. Or maybe it's the Lord of Light. Or maybe they're all the same f***ing thing.
Wait, so you don't know which gods you think are real, yet you're wearing a 7-pointed star around your neck, and you're getting dozens of people to build a sept? Also, why is the Hound acting so cynical about the gods when he has seen firsthand the Lord of Light's magic at work resurrecting Beric Dondarrion?
As water rounds the stones,
smoothing what was jagged, so does a woman's love calm a man's brute nature. A wife salves her husband's wounds. A mother sings her son to sleep.
You learn quickly.
Are you seriously telling me that Marjorie's fully converted to the faith now? She didn't lose her mind or anything, and still held a bad opinion of the Sparrows when she was talking to Loras a couple of episodes ago. Even if this is a facade, why isn't she making an effort to convert Tommen back from his delusion of the faith in the crown?
The king mentioned that since your reunion, you haven't joined him in the marriage bed.
I know Tommen's a bit of an autismo, but why would he feel the need to tell the high f***ing Sparrow about that?
Congress does not require desire on the woman's part.
Not required, but highly recommended. I'm sure I don't need to explain the logistics of why.
You marched against the High Sparrow, against the faith.
We marched for you.
The gods could have punished you and father, but they didn't.
How would the gods have punished them? A bolt of lightning from the heavens?
I will never leave you. Never.
You must.
Why does Marjorie feel the need to be all secretive with Olenna? Why not just send Septa Anella away? Did the High Sparrow seriously make it obligatory for Marjorie to be ghosted by a sadistic nun? Why go to the effort of drawing a rose when you could have just put growing strong or I'm still serving our house lol? Also, despite this gesture of loyalty, Marjorie makes no further attempt to prevent the degradation of Loras and the downfall of her house.
If it weren't for him, none of us would be here. All of you would be meat in the Night King's army, and I'd be a pile of charred bones just like Mance.
Well, actually, if it wasn't for Jon Snow, then the Watch wouldn't have been able to organise itself after Sir Alliser fell during the Battle of Castle Black, and the Wildlings probably would have won the battle, and you all would have made it safely south of the Wall. Well, at least until Stannis arrived.
No.
One can suddenly speak English, and unless there was an English giant language translator out of shot, then he can also understand it.
You're not clever like you Southerners. We say we'll do something, we do it.
Except when you don't.
You were here the day I was taken.
I'm the one who took you. What of it?
Let me serve you.
Loras rots in a cell because of you. The High Sparrow rules this city because of you. Our two ancient houses face collapse because of you and your stupidity.
Well, you could make the argument that it was Tommen and Marjorie's gullibility that allowed the High Sparrow to rule the city. You could also argue that it was your fault for bringing Loras and Marjorie into the Game of Thrones in the first place.
I wonder if you're the worst person I've ever met. At a certain age, it's hard to recall.
You know what? I'm removing another 5 sins for Olenna. Just because I can.
What'll you do then? You have no support? Not anymore. Your brother's gone. The High Sparrow saw to that. The rest of your family have abandoned you. The people despise you.
It's not like she has had any support since, well, ever. At least since she married King Robert Baratheon, that is. Jaime never really has had the ability to garner support since he's been in the Kingsguard, and Tywin wasn't exactly a great father to her either. In fact, between the Mountain, Qyburn, and the Little Birds, she actually has quite a lot of support these days. And what do you mean her family has abandoned her? What about Kevin? It appears that during the siege, the Blackfish took the opportunity to replace the tiles on half of the turrets from red tiles to blue tiles.
Someone needs to teach those sad how to dig trenches.
Someone certainly does.
Oh, no. Not me. I'm just an up-jumped sellsword.
You're an anointed knight. That's quite a difference.
And it's a knight's job to teach people how to dig f***ing trenches? Isn't that a general's job, eh, Jaime? Hang on. In this shot, I can only see 1 or 2 troops carrying Lannister banners, yet in this shot, every 4th row of troops is carrying them. The weather turned from near total blue sky to overcast and foggy in less than a minute. Is Riverrun secretly in Great Britain? Gallows on wheels. For all your portable executionary needs. Freys, who gladly killed hundreds of men, women and children under their own roof, don't take the opportunity to snipe the Blackfish while he's in plain view.
Go on then, cut his throat.
You expect them to be able to hear that?
Get word to the Blackfish. I want a parley.
How's Bronn meant to get word to the Blackfish?
I remember when you were born, my lady. You were named for my Aunt Lyanna, who said she was a great beauty. I'm sure you will be too.
I doubt it. My mother wasn't a great beauty or any other kind of beauty.
11-year-old girl getting defensive over compliments.
I served under your uncle at Castle Black, Lady Lyanna. He was also a great warrior and an honourable man. I was his steward.
Why are you telling her this? Now you're going to have to explain to her that you didn't break your vows, and that you died in a mutiny and was brought back to life with devil magic.
As far as I understand, you're a Snow, and Lady Sandra is a Bolton.
Lady Sandra.
What you have to understand, my lady, is that...
I understand that I'm responsible for Bear Island and all who live here. So why should I sacrifice one more moment life for someone else's war?
Because you swore an oath, and you literally stated in ink and paper to ignore Stannis' request on the basis of upholding that oath?
If it please, my lady.
Did Davos's breath just freeze? How f***ing cold is it in here? White Walkers, perhaps? Okay, f***ing hell. I'm taking another 10 sins off for Lady Mormont's badassery.
How many fighting men can we expect?
62.
There's only 62 men of fighting age on this island? That's worrying.
I assume you're here to fulfill the vow you gave my niece. I don't see Sansa and Arya.
Wasn't it Brienne who swore that vow? Jaime was just a bargaining chip if I recall.
We have enough provisions for 2 years.
Only 2 years? Aren't you surrounded by a river and virtually limitless source of food and water?
Why did you come treat with me?
Sieges are dull. And I wanted to see you in person, get the measure of you.
Have these two people, both members of prominent noble houses, who fought alongside each other during Robert's Rebellion and the Greyjoy Rebellion, seriously never met in person?
The bulk of the force is made up of wildlings.
And the rumors are true.
Rumors? Isn't it public knowledge?
And where was King Rob when the Ironborn attacked this castle? When they threw my wife and children in prison and brutalized and killed our subjects? Taking up with a foreign whore, getting himself and those who followed him killed.
Actually, he sent a detachment of Boltons north to deal with the Ironborn. Robb Stark wasn't a fantastic king, granted. He was actually pretty arrogant and hypocritical. But are you saying that just because he didn't lead the charge into the Battle of Deepwood Motte, that House Stark is no longer worthy of House Glover's support? Also, seeing how you're so desperate for men, while you're in the area, you should probably pay a visit to the Foresters of Ironrath, who have seen their entire house collapse in recent years, mainly due to the Boltons and the Bolton-supported White Hills. Ethan Forrester, the former lord, was stabbed in the neck in cold blood by Ramsay himself. I'm sure they'll jump at the opportunity to return the favour.
Why do we have to come here?
Some of us still like it.
Yeah, but there was no reason why Theon had to come. This is the equivalent of presenting a man's favourite food to him, but the man has had his tongue cut out.
You think Uncle Euron's hunting for us?
Of course he is. As long as we're alive, we're a threat.
A threat to what? The Salt Throne that is rightfully his and everyone left on the Iron Islands agrees as such?
If you're so broken that there's no coming back, take a knife and cut your wrists. End it.
His wrists? How will that end it? I mean, sure, it'll end it eventually, after hours of pain and suffering. What kind of sister is Yara?
Now, since it's my last night ashore for a long while, I'm gonna go the tits off this one.
I think it would have been appropriate for the epic music to suddenly stop with a record scratch sound effect here.
Stannis camped here on his way to Winterfell.
And that's a good thing.
Sansa's right. What about the 20 good men?
2,000 wildlings, 200 hornwoods, 143 masons.
62 Mormonts.
Wait, so within a single episode, these guys travelled from the Wall to Bear Island, to Deepwood Motte, to Hornwood, to wherever the Masons are, to the area where Stannis camped?
It's not enough. We need more men.
There's no time.
If we went down to Castle Kerwin, I know that Lord Kerwin...
We fight with the army we have.
Why has Jon all of a sudden decided that there's no time to build additional support for their cause and that they need to attack Winterfell right now, when they established in a previous episode that they would need to start slow and build, possibly having to ask upwards of 24 minor houses? Also, I feel dumb for keeping on having to say this, but what about House Manderley? House Manderley of f***ing White Harbour, the only full-size city in the north. House Manderley of White Harbour that lost its heir at the Red Wedding at Bolton Hands. Oh look, Sansa's doing that thing that she should have done 3 episodes ago. Maybe you should actually tell your brother so he can actually incorporate those men into his battle plans so he's not sending thousands of men to die for no reason.
Kill those young lads so they won't take up arms against us. I'm your murderer.
Mass murdering soldier who turns a new leaf to become a religious preacher. Now where have I heard that before?
Stay safe. The night is dark and full of terrors.
So is every member of the Brotherhood also a follower of the Lord of Light? Because they recruit random people, like Gendry. So does that mean they also need to convert to the Lord of Light religion to become a full member?
Violence is a disease. You don't cure a disease by spreading it to more people.
No, you cure it by stopping the violent people from spreading it to more people. What kind of philosophy is that?
He's not a lying man. He says the Iron Fleet's in Slaver's Bay. I'm inclined to believe him.
You mean Volantis, right?
Where'd you steal this from?
Presumably for Jaqen's collection of offerings to the many-faced god.
Sweet girl.
She survives this. Also, I thought the Faceless Men were meant to assassinate their targets in a creative way, usually trying to make it look like an accident if possible, not stabbing them on the middle of a crowded bridge in broad f***ing daylight. Instead of ensuring that she's dead, the waif makes the classic villain mistake of wounding your adversary and leaving gravity to decide their fate. Also, doesn't she need to recover her corpse anyway? To salvage the face for the hall and such? You do realise that canals in cities also double as sewers, so if Arya somehow doesn't die of bleeding out, she definitely should die from cholera or AIDS or something along those lines. Even if the Septon's a complete pacifist in all scenarios, I doubt that everyone here would happily allow the 3 rogue members of the Brotherhood to kill them without putting up a fight. They do have axes and hammers and such, and 4 grown men armed with such who have just had their wives and children slaughtered against a with a sword probably is going to be weighed in favour of the former. Wait, so not only did the 3 have time to slaughter 24 people or so, but they also had time to tie a noose and hang the Septon and then flee, all before the Hound made it back? And given that he was in earshot of all of this, that shouldn't have taken more than a couple of minutes.
The wolves are buried, and the false stag done.
Stannis wasn't dead at this point. Also, I feel compelled to add 5 sins for someone referring to the one true king as the false stag. Fight me. Wait, what? People are actually crying over the death of a character they've been watching in a play for no more than 5 minutes? You'd think that someone who had had their rum poisoned would perhaps make an effort to hide it, especially since the person who wants her dead is still alive. Arya is still alive.
Bianca. She'll have a hard time finding work as an actress after what I did to her face.
Does Braavos just not have any laws and law enforcement? To the point where people can freely disfigure someone's face, stab someone on an open bridge, and painfully murder a Westerosi Kingsguard in a brothel?
Got a feeling you'd be good at this sort of work. And besides, we need a new actress.
I don't think I could remember all of the lines.
Oh, don't worry. If you're replacing the actress who played Sansa, then you only need to remember 2. Oh, and you need to flash your tits or something like that as well. Does Lady Crane realise that Arya is meant to only be 16 here?
Essos is east, and Westeros is west. But what's west of Westeros?
Discount America, which is yet to be discovered by Discount Columbus. Discount Britain will then found the Discount 13 colonies, who will then have a Discount American Revolutionary War. Please don't tell me this is something that's going to happen in Season 8. I just realised this is basically the same scene from Season 1 with Robert Baratheon. They even suffered similar injuries. Except Robert actually died because he didn't have 10 layers of plot armor on.
Got off on that, did you? You're
We interrupt tonight's showing of Game of Thrones to bring you Friday the 13th.
Where's the other one? The one with the yellow cloak.
you!
Those are your last words. You. Come on, you can do better.
I don't know. You is not that bad as last words go.
Lodarie se passibari se tio tapia lo tiri giore loti. Se pardore vala arlil velmo lilza. Lo ilva daria.
Call that a successful gambit.
A successful gambit that might help quell the freedmen, but I don't see how it's meant to stop the masters from getting riled up. If anything, it'll just contribute to it.
I'll walk the rest of the way myself. I can't go off on a secret mission in the company of the most famous dwarf in the city.
Varys decided to leave on his secret mission in the middle of the day while walking through the main market of Marine.
The High Septon commands you. Are you sure you want to refuse him?
I thought the faith and the crown were the twin pillars that hold up the world or something, implying that they are equally important. So why can the High Sparrow make demands of kings and queens? The f*** is that guy on the left? He's really into the role, I guess. In this shot, you only see about 10 to 15 mounted knights at most around Jaime Lannister. Yet in this shot, all of a sudden 100 or so foot soldiers have appeared surrounding them.
Getting a bit old to be a squire, aren't we?
Yeah, because someone needs to promote him to a knight.
You think they're
Please don't.
I just assumed Sansa was dead.
Why would you assume that?
In my experience, girls like her don't live very long.
I don't think you know many girls like her.
Why aren't you telling him about Arya? That's something that'll really shock him.
Let me try to persuade the Blackfish to give up the castle.
Why would he abandon his ancestral home?
Because you'll allow him to lead the Tully forces safely north.
So Jaime, who refuses to stop the siege because the Tullys are enemies of the Crown for holding Riverrun, will allow the Tully army to march north to bolster the Stark army, who are also enemies of the Crown. Okay.
You gave it to me for a purpose. I have achieved that purpose.
Does Sansa and Arya no longer need protecting? especially with the former planning to attack an enemy-held castle.
I have a signed letter from your niece, Sansa Stark.
I haven't seen her since she was a child. I don't know her signature. I don't know you. And I will not surrender.
Then why take any handwritten message at face value? How many messages have you received when you know the person who wrote it, the person's signature, and the person who delivered it?
If you think I'm abandoning my family seat on the Kingslayer's word of honor, you're a bloody fool.
Riverrun cannot stand against the Lannisters and the Freys.
We can stand longer than your one-handed friend thinks we can.
Okay, I think the Blackfish is being a bit of a dick here. He knows full well that Jaime will take Riverrun eventually, and in doing so, hundreds of men will die, which may have been an honourable way to go if there was no other choice, yet now he does have another option. It's not like the Freys plan to raze the castle to the ground either. If he could take it back before with no more than a few hundred men, there's no reason why he can't do it again later. Speaking of which, how did the Blackfish invade with the force he raised? And if the Blackfish could have invaded Riverrun so easily, then how come Jaime can't do the same with his literal thousands of men? Shouldn't the Mountain be wearing the new Faith of the Seven suit of armour by now?
There's to be a royal announcement.
There is.
Why wasn't I informed?
Well, I doubt everyone in this room was personally informed that there will be a royal announcement, so I think this is more a matter of you not paying attention to public announcements.
Where are you going?
To stand by my son.
Your place is in the gallery. With the other ladies of the court.
Why is Cersei acting all shocked and annoyed at this? Hasn't she been relegated to the gallery for literally years now?
Trial by combat will be forbidden throughout the Seven Kingdoms. The tradition is a brutish one. A scheme devised by corrupt rulers in order to avoid true judgment from the gods. Cersei Lannister and Loras Tyrell will stand trial before Seven Septons as it was in the earliest days of the Faith.
And the tradition of trial before Seven Septons is a scheme devised by corrupt septons to mould the world to their liking. Doesn't Tommen realise that judgment by the gods will always be delivered through some human medium, and therefore this human medium can always be interpreted as being susceptible to corruption?
That old rumour you told me about. My little bird's investigated.
And? Is it just a rumour or something more?
What do you mean, is it just a rumour? Tyrion clearly proved its existence during the Battle of the Blackwater.
And Salid never drink.
Why not?
Rules.
And who made these rules? Your former masters?
Tyrion insinuating that it's a bad thing that their largest and most skilled army chooses to remain sober.
I like to have my own vineyard. Make my own wine. The imp's delight.
Don't you also plan on becoming the Lord of House Lannister? Won't you be a bit preoccupied with that to be able to spend time cultivating a vineyard? Also,
I hear he hates that nickname.
2 minutes of awkward joke telling is 3 minutes too long. Didn't we already have the obligatory Tyrion, Grey Worm, Missandei bonding stuff already?
The masters have come for their property.
Well, technically, they're the masters of Yunkai, Astapor, and Volantis, and therefore never owned any slaves from Marine. Fuck it. Use Rhaegal and Viserion, you fools!
You imagine yourself a decent person. Is that it? After you've massacred my family.
Jaime had no part in the Red Wedding, and Edmure full well knows this.
How do you tell yourself that you're decent? After everything that you've done?
And what's that exactly? Killing an insane man who was about to kill 500,000 innocent men, women, and children? Hey, that's a good story to tell him. Or do you only tell that story to naked women in the bath?
I love Cersei. You can laugh at that if you want. You can sneer, it doesn't matter. She needs me. And to get back to her, I have to take Riverrun.
Aren't you barred from King's Landing, my dude?
I'll send for your baby boy. And I'll launch him into Riverrun with a catapult. Because you don't matter to me, Lord Edmure. Your son doesn't matter to me. The people in the castle don't matter to me.
We've got morally grey characters again? What is this? 2011?
Lower the drawbridge and open the gate for Lord Edmure.
Aye, sir.
Are you serious? Is everyone so blindly attached to their oaths that they don't see this blatant trap? Jesus Christ. You would have thought that the Blackfish would have made an effort to talk Edmure out of yielding the castle, given that he was just right there.
Command all the forces within the castle to lay down their arms. Open the gates.
My lord.
Your lord has given a command.
You know, they always say rule 0 of ruling is to keep the army happy. Edmure is now forcing an army that risked everything to take this castle back from the Freys and have spent months holding it from the Lannisters and the Freys to yield, meaning all their sacrifice and hardships are going to be completely in vain. Do you seriously think that people are just going to shrug their shoulders and accept this shit?
Find the Blackfish. Put him in irons and hand him over to the Freys.
With the weapons that you've just ordered them to throw down? Why are these two fleeing Riverrun when they could be upstairs securing the Tully army from Jaime? They have yielded. There's no reason why they can't travel north to fight with Sansa. Also, why was no one guarding this extremely decisive point of entry that could have very easily been exploited for a surprise invasion? It takes Jaime several minutes of staring at the river for him to notice the boat rowing down it.
All right. What should the army do?
We will not go to the beach. If we go to the beach, the masters will take the pyramid. The pyramid is the only place in the city we can defend. We stay here.
And then?
We wait for them to come to us, and we fight them.
Really? Isn't the whole point of the masters invading Meereen to take the slaves back? Oh yeah, my plan worked perfectly. They didn't even bother attacking the pyramid. Oh, what's that? They swept through the west of the city and placed our entire population into slavery? Oh, my bad. So that giant racket was Drogon landing on the roof, even though last season he did so without so much as a sound.
Clegane.
The f*** you doing here?
Chasing them. You?
Hanging them.
Shouldn't you be burning them alive, given the whole Lord of Light thing you've got going on? Also, does that imply that someone survived the massacre? Or did someone see the massacre and decide to report it to the Brotherhood instead of, I don't know, the actual law enforcement? Were the Brotherhood planning on leaving the guys hanging there? Oh, they're not butchers, but they'll happily leave corpses hanging on a public road.
But the Lord of Light gave you the power to defeat me. Why?
Because they needed a reason for Arya to hate the Brotherhood so she would run off.
You can still help a lot more than you've harmed, Clegane. It's not too late for you.
So you're implying that him helping to build a holdfast was a non-productive and unhelpful use of his time and energy? I'm surprised he's not super pissed at you for not keeping your men under control, to be honest. Random pointless disguise.
If you'd have done your job, she would have died painlessly.
That death seemed pretty quick and painless as deaths go.
The many-faced god was promised a name. He must always receive what is his. You can't change that. I can't change that. No one can. And now he's been promised another name.
Actually, Jaqen just told you to yeet her for betraying the Faceless Men. Quit your bullshit about this being about the many-faced god. Okay, so now I'm going to start a brief bonus round of things that no one should be able to pull off after sustaining a life-threatening injury a day earlier. I'll also include a bonus round of things that someone who works for a secretive cult of soulless assassins should refrain from doing if they wish to remain discreet. Because Arya is now actually suffering from the drawbacks of her serious injury and is significantly slower, the Waif decided to pursue her slower, because something evil one-dimensional villain something. This is a cool moment and all, but Arya's other senses would only become so acute after weeks of deprivation from her sight. Now that she's had her sight back for a few months or so, she's not immediately going to have her super hearing and super touch senses restored from her days of being blind. That's just not how it works. In fact, assuming that the Waif had completed her training, surely she would have also gone through the same blindness training. Not to mention she's completed every other aspect of Faceless Men training, and also lacks a severe injury. There's no way Arya won that fight.
A girl is Arya Stark of Winterfell. and I'm going home.
A girl should also seek serious medical attention for the open stab wounds on her stomach. Wait, these are catapults? From the looks of them last episode, they were clearly trebuchets. I'm sure there's a subreddit out there that will be extremely irate about the downgrade. Also, after pressing the attack for what must be nearly 24 hours now, Marine hasn't burnt down completely, the ships haven't run out of flaming balls, and no one on either side has considered advancing towards the enemy. It also seems that a cliff face has suddenly appeared behind where the ships approached from last episode.
The Masters cannot let Marine succeed. Because if Marine succeeds, a city without slavery, a city without masters. It proves that no one needs a master.
Even though literally every city west of Volantis has little to no slavery. I think they're a bit late on the draw on stopping their slaves from seeing that a society can prosper without them.
I will crucify the masters. I will set their fleets afire, kill every last one of their soldiers and return their cities to the dirt.
What does Tyrion see in her again? If every time she gets salty she starts talking of genocide, and it's up to him to talk her down from it?
Once before I offered you peace.
Isn't the whole point of a parley to negotiate a surrender? If so, then why can I still hear and see the attack continuing?
The dragons beneath the Great Pyramid will be slaughtered.
I should be questioning how he knew about the dragons under the Great Pyramid, but I'm more interested as to why he is ordering the Great Pyramid to be firebombed, potentially releasing said dragons.
My reign has just begun.
Psychic Dragon. It's funny how the Masters have absolutely no plan for what to do in case that things go wrong. I know they're arrogant bastards who couldn't fathom such a situation, but why not at least order the men to lob a spear at her or something? Because remember, this whole thing falls apart at the seams if she dies. Shouldn't Rhaegal and Viserion still be pissed at Daenerys for leaving them to rot in a cell for the better part of 2 years? Daenerys manages to do a full flyover of every part of Marine, despite flying straight towards the attacking ships. Nothing says breaker of chains more than burning a shipload of innocent slave soldiers. I mean, you could have at least gone for the main capital ship that the Masters themselves travel on. The soldiers proceeded to run the several hundred miles to Yunkai.
Remind them what happened when Daenerys Stormborn and her dragons came to Marine.
Well, if they felt compelled to attack after Daenerys executed hundreds of Masters after taking Marine, then I don't exactly see how her destroying a single ship is meant to deter them. If anything, they'll just use anti-air ballistas next time. And no, it's not new technology. Meraxus was brought down with one, alongside Rhaenys Targaryen, nearly 300 years ago. Convenient snow melting just for this battle is very much convenient.
Let's end this the old way. You against me.
Are you seriously telling me that at any point in history entire full-scale battles were averted in favour of duels? Do you see Sansa accepting defeat because Jon lost to Ramsay? Do you see the Boltons ceding Winterfell because Ramsay was killed by Jon? Or in literally any other conflict, do you see the losing side accepting defeat after their champion was killed?
Will your men want to fight for you when they hear you wouldn't fight for them?
He's good. Very good.
Ramsay admits that he wouldn't fight for his men who are currently fighting for him in full earshot of his own bannermen and guards. That shit's gonna spread quickly.
And you're all fine-looking men. My dogs are desperate to meet you. I haven't fed them for 7 days. They're ravenous.
Yes, because these men who are in full battle dress are planning on watching the battle from afar and wait for an outcome instead of participating in the battle and dying like the rest of their men. Also, Ramsay, being the sick bastard that he is, fails to make any comment on Lyanna Mormont.
If he was smart, he'd stay inside the walls of Winterfell and wait us out.
That's not his way. He knows the North is watching. If the other houses sense weakness on his part, they'll stop fearing him.
You know, this battle is actually extremely well thought out, and it's clear that a high level of planning and ingenuity has gone into it to make it a reality. However, I must object to but a small issue. What about the 20 good men?
Horses. I know what mounted knights can do to us. You and Stannis cut through us like piss through snow.
Well, that was more to do with the fact that he caught you off guard and unprepared. Give the army pikes and shields and you can easily stop any cavalry force right in its tracks.
We'll never get him back. Rickon is Ned Stark's true-born son, which makes him a greater threat to Ramsay than you, a bastard, or me, a girl. As long as he lives, Ramsay's claim to Winterfell will be contested, which means he won't live long.
Is Sansa listening to what she's saying? What is the point of this battle? To retake Winterfell and restore your f***ing house. To protect your f***ing family. Also, the whole reason that Jon even agreed to help you retake Winterfell was after you got the letter from Ramsay informing you that he had Rickon. Jesus f***ing Christ, Sansa.
When will we have a larger force? We've pleaded with every house that'll have us.
F*** off. You've done no such thing. Sansa even said so last episode, suggesting you go down to Castle Cerwyn or something, but you had made up your mind that there was no time.
No one can protect me. No one can protect anyone.
Says the one who would still be Ramsay's wife at Winterfell if it wasn't for certain someone's protecting you.
You think there's hope?
I've never seen these bold motherfuckers fight. And they've never seen the free folk fight.
But surely the Umbers have seen the free folk fight. In fact, isn't that basically their job? To stop the wildlings from getting too far south?
But he had demons in his skull whispering foul things.
You saw these demons?
What? No, it's a manner of speaking. Not actual demons.
Even though Tormund often speaks in similes and metaphors, Davos needs to explain this one.
Well, you loved that Stannis, and I loved the man he burned. Mans didn't have demons in his skull. He didn't torture people or listen to some red witch.
However, he did condone the wildling tribes under him to engage in such acts, including other delightful pastimes such as cannibalism.
Have his
Hold on, let me just patent that for my new laxative.
I'm ordering you not to bring me back.
I am not your servant, Jon Snow.
You're in my camp. I'm the commander.
I serve the Lord of Light. I do what he commands.
And who ordered you to bring Jon back the first time? Because if I recall correctly, it was Davos, not the fireplace. Oh look, it's a pile of wood in a place that I knew Stannis camped previously, and any regular person would walk straight past without thinking twice of it. But for some reason, I feel the urge to scrutinise this particular pile because reasons. How on earth did Shireen's wooden stag, of all things, survive being burnt?
Last time we saw each other was at Winterfell, yes? You were making jokes about my height, I seem to recall.
While at the same time you were musing at the over-rebellious nature of the Ironborn as you were returning from a trip to the Wall, the sole purpose of which was to urinate off the edge of it.
Our uncle Euron returned home after a long absence. He murdered our father and took the Salt Throne from Yara.
You mean the Salt Throne that wasn't even Yara's to begin with? Sure, Euron is a prick and Yara and Theon have every right to try and overthrow him, but don't act like the throne is rightfully Yara's. Euron won the King's Moot fair and square.
We do. And both murdered by a usurper as well.
The Mad King was killed by Jaime Lannister, not Robert Baratheon. Also, if Daenerys now knows the full extent of the absolute horrors that Aerys Targaryen committed during his reign, then why is she still acting so salty over Robert's rebellion and referring to Robert Baratheon as nothing more than a usurper? What did she expect everyone to do? Put up with the Mad King? If she has a scrap of morality in her, then she would accept that Robert, Ned, and the other rebels were more than justified in doing what they did.
What if everyone starts demanding their independence?
She's not demanding, she's asking.
Tyrion's right. All that granting the independence of the Iron Islands is going to do is open up the political floodgates for everyone else to start asking, then demanding, their independence.
No more reaving, roving, raiding, or raping.
That's our way of life.
No more.
No more.
Congratulations! You've just lost the support of all your fighting men. Good f***ing job. Shouldn't these guys be entrenching themselves? Isn't their current tactic to allow Ramsay to charge at them? Why didn't they give Wun a weapon? Even something basic like a boulder tied to a tree trunk will allow him to do some serious damage. Give him some fucking armor as well and he could probably wipe out the entire Bolton army by himself. Was there any need for you to dismount your horse?
Do you like games, little man?
Is it just me, or has Art Parkinson aged way too much to be passed off as an 11-year-old boy? I know this has been memed to oblivion, but seriously, what kind of idiot sees someone attempting to snipe them and runs in a straight f***ing line? Despite having his horse in a full gallop for over 30 seconds, Jon's horse is still way back here for some reason. Okay, at this point, Jon and Rickon are clearly no more than about 100 to 150 meters apart. With a horse in full gallop and Rickon literally running for his life, it should take no more than about 7 or 8 seconds to close the distance. Max. But somehow they keep this going for 25 seconds more. Given how far away Ramsay was at this point, the arrow really should have been visible as it came arcing down from the sky. Oh, and it should have entered his back at an angle, not straight perpendicular as if it was fired at point blank range. I know rage can make a person do stupid things, but Jesus Christ, what was Jon hoping to achieve by charging into the Bolton army alone? Why not take Rickon's body back to your entrenchment position and allow Ramsay to charge at you, like your plan dictated? Jon, you're an idiot, mate. Weren't the Stark's archers in front of their cavalry before? Jon survives this. I don't think I should have to go into the principles of kinetic energy to explain why knocking someone clean off their horse in that way shouldn't be possible. That being said, this single shot, holy shit. The number of bodies here does feel a little excessive given that only the cavalry forces are in play at the moment, which only form a fraction of the forces on either side, and that not everyone is dead. Also, just how did everyone manage to die in those exact spots, to the point that a literal wall of bodies has been formed? You'd think that as soon as the ground was no longer visible from the amount of bodies present there, that soldiers on both sides would choose to fight in a slightly less congested area. I really should start keeping count on the number of times that someone has been about to lose a duel and then someone else comes from behind to stab their adversary in the back. But I can't really be asked to go back through 58.5 episodes to find every single one. No one, not even one, makes an attempt to attack the Bolton shield men while they were getting into position, even though they wouldn't really have any way of defending themselves other than their shield. Judging from this shot, the area inside the shields is already at mosh pit levels, so I don't see how anyone can engage in any meaningful sword fight like is happening here. In the spirit of earlier CGI shots, where did these banners come from? Because in these shots, none of the Stark forces seem to be holding any up, yet in these shots, all of a sudden there are dozens of Stark, Hornwood and Mormont banners flying. Also, where the f*** are the Masons? Do they even have a sigil? Why is everyone all of a sudden falling back now? Wasn't everyone already up to the wall of bodies? Jon survives this. Ramsay is pretty knowledgeable about military affairs, isn't he? Doesn't he not remember that he's been in open rebellion against the crown ever since he married Sansa? And if he had won this battle, he would have had to have attempted to fend off the Lannister army after losing a good chunk of his army, mostly to friendly fire. Okay, goddammit, I'm gonna have to remove some more sins for the beautiful charge scene. Surely Robb and Aaron would have made a point to show up. He strikes me as the kind of person who would enjoy seeing his cavalry absolutely decimate an army.
Their army's gone.
Our army's gone.
Ramsay has forgotten about the several hundred Knights of the Vale that are clearly now a part of the Stark army. Not one of these archers can manage to hit Wun in the head. Also, despite them all nearly being crushed to death and most likely dropping all their weapons in the process, the original Stark army managed to regroup, rearm, and arrive at the gates of Winterfell on foot less than 60 seconds after Ramsay arrived on horseback. Instead of shooting Jon Snow, the architect of his downfall and basically his arch-nemesis, Ramsay decides to shoot the immobile giant who was probably going to die anyway from excessive arrow syndrome. Why the f*** is Sansa here? Winterfell was literally a war zone less than a minute ago. The Boltons decided to keep all the original Stark banners around. You know, as memorabilia. Either that or there was some rapid off-screen sewing action that we missed out on.
I'm gonna bury my brother in the crypt, next to my father.
Ned's buried in the crypt? I know Tyrion gave Catelyn Ned's bones, but how did they reach Winterfell before the castle fell to Theon Greyjoy's forces?
All memory of you will disappear.
It's nice to see that Ramsay's dogs have the common courtesy to allow Sansa to finish her speech before devouring him. I guess Ramsay was right. He is a part of Sansa now. She's even taken up the torch of the sadistic Bolton smile. What is even on Tommen's medallion? Engravings of inbred lions? I know Tommen is basically exactly that, but wouldn't stags be more appropriate given his legal heritage? I feel that it is appropriate to remove another sin for this beautiful yet terrifying soundtrack that has since made me research the basement structure of any grand halls that I plan on visiting. Given that neither of them are on trial, and that they probably would have travelled here in big gilded boxes anyway, you'd think that the king and queen would have coordinated to arrive at the Great Sept together.
Grand Maester?
Grand Maester Pycelle doesn't question why this little kid has been permitted to run around the halls of the Red Keep. How does the system of trial even work here? Did they plan on bringing forth witnesses? Or were the Seven Septons just going to request divine guidance and sentence Loras accordingly, regardless of what he says?
I lay with other men, including the traitor, Renly Baratheon.
Judging from everyone's reaction to his statement, the homosexuality was hardly something to scoff at, but laying with the traitor, Renly Baratheon? That's just unforgivable. In fact, Margaery should be hung, drawn and quartered for marrying him in the first place.
I am guilty of depravity, dishonesty, profligacy, and arrogance.
Arrogance is an unholier-than-thou sin? Well then, I guess the fact that this building is about to go up in flames will be the gods enacting justice.
I take full responsibility for my many sins and unburden myself of my desires. My only remaining wish is to devote my life to the Seven. May I be a living example of their grace for others to witness.
You understand fully what this means.
Wait, so Loras just confessed to his own crimes and also decided on his own punishment? Thanks, Seven Septons, you are f***ing useless.
I will never marry. And I will never father children.
I've just realised just how many celibate and title-renouncing orders and guilds there are in Westeros. The Order of the Maesters, the Kingsguard, the Night's Watch, and now the Faith of the Seven. It's especially interesting because many would consider those restrictions as punishment, which is why being forced to join the latter two is a common sentence for crimes. Yet in doing so, it results in a large demographic of the members of that organisation being criminals. And I must question why people, especially in the case of the Faith, would want that. Didn't they literally need to tie people down into a table in order to do this before? I'm just saying, unless Loras can take pain like a saint, then you're probably going to end up making a mess of this. Also, why does this need doing straight away? When Lancel initially joined the Sparrows, he didn't receive his 7-pointed star tattoo until some time after.
I'm late for the trial.
If the mountain is blocking Tommen's path, can't he just call his Kingsguard to get them to remove him? Sure, he's one tough motherfucker, but I imagine 10 well-trained Kingsguards should be able to take him down no problem if he's defying his king.
Once the Queen Mother's trial is concluded, Brother Loras is free to leave.
That honestly makes no sense. For what reason would he have for keeping Loras? The trials are completely separate, and the crimes that Cersei is being tried for, adultery, incest, and the regicide of King Robert, all occurred long before the Tyrells arrived in King's Landing.
Get the others.
I'm now going to follow this random kid, for all I know may have just been interested as to why there were so many people inside the Sept, instead of doing what His High Holiness commanded, which was to retrieve the Queen Mother from the Red Keep to actually carry out this f***ing trial. Lancel doesn't appear to make any serious effort to apprehend or even call out to this kid, despite going out of his way to pursue him. Because reasons. Also, why would anyone bring a torch into a room that they know is filled to the brim with caches of wildfire? Ah, the things you can get kids these days to do for sweets. Being stabbed in the bum is apparently enough to paralyze Lancel from the waist down, even when the adrenaline is pumping because his life and the lives of thousands of people depend on him blowing out some f***ing candles. Assuming that this kid was the one to light the candles, that means he literally has the second highest kill count in all of Game of Thrones. behind only Bronn with his flaming arrow against Stannis' ships at the Blackwater. Think about that. You know, from what I can tell, Lancel didn't have to go through any security checks to get from the streets of King's Landing to this room that is filled with barrels of wildfire. I must question then, how is the existence of wildfire under King's Landing still a disputed myth, when any one person in a city of 500,000 people could have very easily gotten lost and stumbled upon this very room or the countless others like it?
The trial can wait. We all need to leave.
Wait, why is Marjorie trying to get everyone to leave if the wildfire caches are just a rumour? Assuming that she doesn't know about them, but still believes that Cersei plans on making a move against the Sept in the trial, surely the safest option would be to stay inside the Sept, instead of going out into the open streets. Lancel had a full 10 seconds between stopping next to the candles and the candles igniting the wildfire. That's more than enough time to blow all of them out. Medieval terrorism, only on Game of Thrones. Also, what's stopping this chain reaction of wildfire from spreading to every single cache of the stuff underneath King's Landing? Even if they were isolated from each other, if the force of the explosion can break through solid foundations and bring down a structure the size of the Great Sept of Baelor, then what's stopping it from breaking through the walls of the underground tunnels and spreading to the other caches anyway? What happened to Tommen's inbred lion medallion? Did he just decide to kick back and relax after the mountain barred him exit of his chambers? Septa and Nella didn't accompany Marjorie to the Great Sept.
Because it felt good to watch them burn. It felt good to imagine their shock and their pain.
Well, their pain wouldn't have been all that great, if at all really. I'm actually surprised Cersei, in all of her sadistic nature, didn't see to that. Hey, that doesn't look like half-boy Julius Bjornsson at all. Well, maybe a little bit.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
The mountain's disfigurements are so horrific that no one can gaze upon them for more than 5 seconds without screaming in terror.
I'm very sorry, Your Grace. Very sorry.
On an unrelated note, may I inquire why you asked me to open the window shutter and position an object underneath it to allow you to easily step onto the windowsill? I guess that's why they call it King's Landing.
May we speak the words of our alliance? The Freys and the Lannisters send their regards.
In case you forgot that these guys did a thing 3 seasons ago. Also, given that Roose Bolton was the one who said that line, wouldn't it be more indicative of the alliance between House Lannister and House Bolton?
You don't even have to do anything, do you?
Given that this girl turns out to be Arya in disguise, you'd think she might make an effort to avoid drawing any attention to her. Perhaps avoiding one of the most powerful and influential people in the country would be a good start.
Edmure's back in the cell. Can't go killing my son by law. Wouldn't be right. Give the family a bad name.
Barring the hypocrisy of Walder Frey's statement, didn't Edmure become a prisoner of House Lannister at Jaime's command? And didn't Jaime agree to allow Edmure, his son, and his wife to live a comfortable life at Casterly Rock? Why would he agree to give Edmure back?
Have you done much fighting yourself, Lord Frey?
I'm a bit old for all that.
No, but back in your day.
The purpose of fighting is defeating your enemies, isn't it? I've defeated mine. River Run belonged to House Tully for 1,000 years. Now it's mine. What do you call that?
That in no way answers Jaime's question.
We gave you the Riverlands to hold the Riverlands. If we have to ride north and take them back for you every time you lose them, why do we need you?
Because, you'll see within the next few days after all of House Frey is wiped out, the Riverlands will devolve into anarchy without their liege lords. Also, isn't that the whole point of a liege lord anyway? To govern in a peacetime, not quell rebellions? Historically, when a significant rebellion does arise, houses from other kingdoms do get involved, usually including the crown.
Show me.
Your Grace, there's no need.
Show me.
After a fall from that height, I'm surprised that there's even anything left resembling a human-shaped corpse. Also, and this is a very big also, what did Cersei expect was going to happen regarding Tommen? Obviously, she wasn't expecting him to commit suicide, so what was her plan when Tommen inevitably confronted her over her murdering his wife, his brother and father-by-law, and his uncle, along with thousands of innocent people? She couldn't redirect the blame on someone else, as she ordered the Mountain to physically bar Tommen from leaving the Red Keep, and who promptly left him once the deed was done. Did she just think that Tommen would be completely fine with it? Wasn't the whole point of doing this to remove her enemies, and by extension, any potential influences on Tommen, when the very nature and shamelessness of the act would just completely destroy the relationship between her and her son? This deserves a couple dozen sins at least.
What are your thoughts concerning the king's funeral? As the Sept of Baelor is no longer an option, perhaps a ceremony in the throne room?
Burn him. Bury his ashes where the Sept once stood.
But that doesn't answer his inquiry on where the funeral itself will take place. Do you want to just burn him in here? Judging from the direction that Sam and Gilly's horse and cart were coming from, and the structure of Old Town, they clearly rode straight past the entrance to the city and went out of their way to come to this cliff just to, I guess, look at the city, when Sam is working against the clock to find a solution to the White Walker problem. Yay.
Mace Draven became quite ill shortly after the election. He's since passed away. Which is why I'm here.
Well then, who was running all those messages for Stannis while he was garrisoned there? Surely whoever it was could have also informed the outside world that Castle Black had a new Lord Commander and was in need of a new Maester.
This is irregular.
Yes, well, I suppose that life is irregular.
Please go commit not alive. Discount Great Library of Alexandria. So if this place has the astrolobes from the title sequence, then where's the giant map of the world? It will make a lot of sense for it to be here of all places.
When we have feasts, my family would sit up here. And I'd sit down there.
Wait, is this the same room that you had the feast in Season 1? Jesus, Ramsay's been doing some renovation work. Here, catch this thing I'm about to throw at you. Also, why does Davos wait this long to confront Jon and Melisandre over Shireen's death, when you consider how emotional and devastated he is over it? It's clear it's been a while since the battle. That Raven probably would have taken at least 4 or 5 days to travel from Old Town to Winterfell alone.
She was good, she was kind, and you killed her!
So did her father. So did her mother.
Oh, f*** off. If you told Selyse Baratheon that the sky was green, she would have believed you, without question. And as for Stannis, you managed to make him believe that it was Gendry's blood that killed Robb Stark and Joffrey Baratheon, which may hold a grain of truth, but you still managed to string him along to believe that Baratheon blood was like unobtainium.
Ride south today. If you return to the north, I'll have you hanged as a murderer.
But why? If you're sending her south, she can't help you in the war against the Night King in any way. But at the same time, you're robbing Davos of his justice against her. Literally no one is happy.
I'm having the Lord's Chamber prepared for you.
Yeah, it's gonna take a bit. We keep finding bloody knives under the bed. Ramsay had quite the collection.
Should have told you about him. About the Knights of the Vale.
Yes, Sansa, you should have. Why are you only realizing this now?
We need to trust each other. We can't fight a war amongst ourselves. We have so many enemies now.
Well, more like 2 enemies, albeit powerful ones, but carry on.
A raven came from the Citadel. A white raven. Winter is here.
You know how God Save the Queen changes to God Save the King depending on the reigning monarch of the United Kingdom? Do you guys think that the start words change from winter is coming to we f***ing told you so depending on the season?
The last time a Tyrell came to Dorne, he was assassinated.
Since we are returning to Dorne once again, I'd be failing in my duties if I didn't award another 10 sins. If you have any objections, please contact me at screwthedornsubplot@gmail.com.
The Lannisters have declared war on House Tyrell. They have declared war on Dorne. We must be allies now, if we wish to survive.
Wait, you provoked the Lannister forces by killing Myrcella nearly a year ago now, well before the Lannister-Tyrell alliance fell apart. Yet you know full well that Dorne can't stand against a full-scale Lannister invasion, and that you would need to form an alliance to stand a chance. So why the f*** did you declare war when you did?
Fire and blood.
I travelled halfway across the gnome world to say 3 f***ing words. Life's good.
But you're not going to Westeros. You're staying here with the Second Sons. There's finally peace in Meereen. You will keep the peace while the people choose their own leaders.
That sounds like a terrible idea. Barring the fact that the Second Sons are sellswords who are absolutely terrible at policing, who's to say that Daario would be able to maintain his position as the leader of the Second Sons without your protection? He could very easily be ousted by captains who are bored of playing the Meereen babysitter, and things would fall apart very quickly from there.
Specific orders will be left for you regarding the welfare of Meereen and the Bay of Dragons.
The Bay of Dragons?
We can't call it Slaver's Bay anymore, can we?
Well, you don't necessarily have to change the name of a geographic feature just because the government type of the surrounding settlements has changed. There's plenty of examples in real life of such things keeping their traditional names, but putting that aside, think of the poor sod at the Citadel who's going to have to go through every single f***ing map and change it.
I said farewell to a man who loves me, a man I thought I cared for, and I felt nothing.
Wow, Daenerys is becoming more of a daddy's girl every single day. Hopefully Tyrion can steer her away before she reaches the wildfire phase.
He wasn't the first to love you. And he won't be the last.
Forebode sex shadowing.
Everyone's always asking me to believe in things. Family, gods, kings, myself. It was often tempting until I saw where belief got people. So I said no thank you to belief.
Tyrion literally just implied that people who believe in themselves end up worse off than people who don't. Tune in next week for more of these life lessons from Tyrion.
Tyrion Lannister. I name you Hand of the Queen.
I know he was definitely going to accept the role, but doesn't Daenerys technically have to offer the position instead of just thrusting it upon someone, similar to how Ned had the option to refuse Robert's offer in Season 1?
But they're already here, my lord. Here, my lord.
You know, given how f***ed up Arya is and how she clearly heard the story of the Night's Watch rat cook, you would have thought she may have at least made some effort to allow Walder Frey to eat the pie made from his own sons. It's at this moment that any lord with half a brain cell would scream "guards" at the top of his lungs. Given how throat slitting works in this world, Arya was taking a serious roll of the dice if she wanted to make Lord Walder Frey suffer, as people can sometimes take many minutes to die from having their throat slit, whereas others, like in Catelyn's case, die nearly instantly.
I came here every day when I was a girl. Prayed to be somewhere else.
Really? Are we now also starting every f***ing conversation with, "We used to do this and this back before shit hit the fan"?
A picture of me on the Iron Throne, and you by my side.
Littlefinger, the king of subtlety. But hey, at least it's not paedophilia anymore.
Ancient spells were carved into his foundations. Strong magic. To protect men from what lies beyond.
And while it stands, the dead cannot pass.
Yeah, but wasn't all of that magic rendered void when the Night King touched Bran?
The Great War is coming, and I still fight for the living. I'll do what I can, as long as I can.
And by that I mean, I'll stalk everyone who comes north of the wall, but not actually help them until an opportunity for an epic rescue arises. Did it not occur to you to perhaps leave your horse? What's Mira going to do? Carry Bran herself?
I'm the three-eyed raven now. I have to be ready for this.
Apparently, the most arduous and ultimate trial that any budding three-eyed raven can endure is discovering that your half-brother, who you haven't seen in over 5 years, is in fact your cousin.
If Robert finds out you'll kill him, you know he will. You have to protect him.
Why would anyone to be so much of a prick to tell a depressed and dying Lyanna that war had engulfed the entire continent and the Targaryens had fallen to Robert Baratheon, all because of her being kidnapped? I'd imagine the conversation between Ned and Robert when the former got back to King's Landing went something like this. "Hey Ned, it's great and all that you've got a bastard son now, but you've only been gone for like a couple of weeks. Must have been some woman to be able to gestate your baby within that time frame. That being said, I'm not gonna lie, this scene is beautiful."
My father used to say, "We find our true friends on the battlefield."
That might not be the best choice of words, given that most of the people in this room didn't fight alongside you against the Boltons, implying that they all aren't true friends.
And you, Lord Kerwin,
Your father was skinned alive by Ramsay Bolton. Still, you refused the call.
How about you climb back down off your high horse? You were also prepared to break that oath if it wasn't thanks to Davos's speech 100. 2 whole minutes of various lords apologising profusely for not supporting Jon Snow, even though he was definitely going to lose without the Knights of the Vale, and should he have lost, none of them would have felt an ounce of regret. I feel like all this is doing is showing the Northerners are just as flexible with their loyalties as everyone else in this country. That fire is still going? Given that King's Landing is basically a discount London, that fire should be rapidly turning into a discount Great Fire of London. Following Cersei's antics with the wildfire, I'm surprised there's still enough lords and ladies left in King's Landing to fill an entire hall.
I now proclaim Cersei of the House Lannister, first of her name, Queen of the Andals and the First Men, Protector of the Seven Kingdoms.
So are the titles given to the Westerosi monarch just completely superfluous? Because, Jesus Christ, people keep changing it and it's annoying. Within the space of less than 2 episodes, Daenerys managed to retrofit all of the Master's ships with giant gold dragon figureheads and brand new Targaryen sails. These Dothraki are not seasick. Varys travelled all the way to Dorne, then all the way back, only to immediately turn around and sail for Westeros. I hope his accumulated frequent sailor points could at least afford him an upgrade to business class.
Now stand aside, worthy adversary.
'Tis but a scratch.
A scratch? Your arm's off.
No, it isn't.
Well, what's that then?